In the year 2025, tombs suddenly appeared all over the world, and inside these tombs were things known as relic guardians. And these very artifacts have completely turned the world upside down. For instance, right now, when a team of elite soldiers encounters someone like Zhu Wen, they all have to raise their guns, screaming in high tension, "He's over there! Catch him!" Mythical figures, historical icons, legends, folk tales, and even characters from best-selling novels, items that stepped out of stories passed down for thousands of years. Most of them have turned this world into hell, but not in this life. Because Zhu Wen has become the king of those relic guardians, an omnipotent being, so being spotted by these humans just makes him chuckle mockingly before leading those fools on a chase, while the idiots behind him are still frantically revving their engines to catch up with the mysterious stranger. "He's entering the tomb! Chase him! Don't let him get away!" Zhu Wen doesn't even bother looking at the chaotic scene, just nonchalantly reaching back to create a stone wall to block himself off from those annoying people. Damn it, the entrance is blocked. At the same time, Zhu Wen waits for the secret door to shut completely before letting out a satisfied sigh. Now, I wonder what kind of relic is hidden in this tomb? He's so excited that he ignores the rumbling sounds behind him, happily mumbling to himself about how much he's looking forward to it. It's hard to say how much time has passed since then at a skyscraper. A high-level meeting is being conducted in a tense atmosphere, with Kang Do presiding, rambling on. So, let's move on to the next agenda item, which concerns Seo Ju Huan's personal use of artifacts. I mean, if he isn't granting licenses to study the tombs, shouldn't he also refrain from entering them on his own? Isn't that right? I believe I've already told you all about this before. As soon as she heard that, Cheha nervously reached into her inner coat pocket, trying to salvage the situation. Unfortunately, the action was quickly noticed by Sun A Ju Cheha. Meanwhile, Alia just tried to hide her embarrassment by taking a sip of cold water. The captain is simply going around to verify the artifacts beforehand. However, the moment Sun A suddenly spoke up with words that hadn't been vetted, before other researchers enter, he goes to collect them. It didn't just make her choke on her water, even Kang Do frowned in confusion. "What did you say?" The reaction of the two of them forced her to change her speech immediately. No, I mean he is trying to pre-assess the danger levels for other researchers. Unexpectedly, that statement made Kang Do explode in a fit of rage. "Danger level, my foot! He's already snatched all the original relics and stuffed them into his own warehouse, hasn't he? Listen, he even went as far as naming the tomb he raided yesterday, the Raid King's waiting room." As the conversation reached a boiling point, suddenly, the smirking face of Zhu Wen appeared on the screen, causing everyone to startle. "What, Captain?" Before anyone could get a word in, he cleared his throat and vented first. "Why won't you guys pick up the phone? Do I have to act like a hacker just to get in touch with you?" When Sun A awkwardly spoke up, "Captain, we are currently in a conference." Zhu Wen quickly changed his tone. "Oh, it's today, huh? Well, keep up the good work then." Julian, knowing full well the other's habit of leaving things half-finished, slammed the table and yelled, "Don't hang up! Where are you?" "You were just about to say something." Zhu Wen smiled gently, enunciating his words as if he didn't realize the council on the other end was displaying excessive tension. "It's nothing big. I was just thinking about changing my title soon. Raid King sounds a bit tacky, don't you think? How about Raid Emperor? Anyway, if you guys are in a meeting, call me back later. I have to enter a tomb now." Julian hurriedly screamed as she saw a signal coming through. "Wait, a tomb? Are you raiding again?" Unfortunately, Zhu Wen deliberately cut the connection so he wouldn't have to face questions that might drown him. Sun A was the first to regain her composure and speak up in embarrassment. "Let's just move on to the next agenda item of the meeting." Kang Do, exhausted by what just happened, could only sigh and nod. "Let's do that." At the same time, Zhu Wen, having finished the brief call, excitedly looked at the space around him. "This is the last room. I wonder what the owner of this tomb was like." The system quickly provided information about the sword he just held. Acid's Venom Fang, SS rank, consumable artifact. That made Zhu Wen show his disappointment. Acid? Well, that's a pretty strong one, sure. That's a good sign. But Zhu Wen's rambling was cut short when the three-legged crow suddenly appeared in the middle of this small space. "What's wrong? You don't look very excited even though you just received a god-tier artifact, the crown of the omnipotent one." The three-legged crow, a hidden divine artifact, spoke. Ju Wen, being called out, responded awkwardly, "No, it's just that this tomb is quite large, and I was expecting a supreme god-tier artifact to appear, like the sun god something, for instance." The three-legged crow, hearing that, laughed and immediately muttered, "Always as greedy as ever." Yet, Ju Wen not only didn't feel embarrassed, but excitedly shared more. "Hey, this isn't just simple greed anymore. It's not like that. Everyone always wants to leave the best things for their children, right? Right?" Before that, at the university hospital, the doctor gently guided Eisen regarding the small ultrasound photo in her hand. "You can see the gestational sac right here. Congratulations, you are 5 weeks pregnant." This news moved Ju Wen to hug his wife tightly. Eisen's action made her smile shyly, expressing her affection right in the hospital hallway. Ju Wen rarely sheds tears, but he let out his emotions. "Thank you so much. I'm so happy, Eisen." Eisen, waiting for him to finish, laughed and replied, "Yeah, me too." The young couple quickly stepped out of the hospital, instinctively immersed in conversation about their heaven-sent child. "How about I ask those artifacts to see if it's a boy or a girl? We'll know in a few weeks anyway, right? But I want to see our child as soon as possible." "Ju Wen, you have no patience at all." This led to a humorous reality when Juhan bringing Eisen's ultrasound photo to work just to ponder this future I never even imagined it really is magical. That blissful look on her face makes Julie visibly annoyed. "Ju Wen, focus." At the very least, he should be working while stuck in the office. When Ju Wen says that in his clueless, provocative tone, "I'm experiencing the magic of life firsthand right now." "Seriously? And here you are, pouring cold water all over me?" That remark makes Julie even angrier than before, and she starts yelling. "That's why I told you to go home if you wanted to do that. Can't you see this mountain of paperwork piling up? This is the consequence of the so-called omnipotent one spending every day raiding tombs. At the very least, help me sort through these book-type artifacts. Go! You are banned from clocking out until you finish all of this." The fact that Julie is acting even more threatening than his own mother makes Ju Wen let out an involuntary sigh. Fine, I'll do it, okay?" Seriously, this Julian guy is getting more and more unpleasant with age. Is he still single because he's getting old? Poor guy. Let's see, this is the official paperwork, and that's a low-grade artifact. Suddenly, Ju Wen freezes when he spots a strange book tucked between the papers on his desk. As for this is the Book of Laws. It suddenly reveals its true cunning form to speak with the Chosen One. "Greetings," it says, quickly creating a dark barrier. It cuts Ju Wen off from the reality he is living in. Also, the Book of Laws can speak to him in a completely private space. "It is a pleasure to meet the 187,487th Omnipotent One. You have also been granted the right to participate in the war for the Supreme Throne." Ju Wen finally finds a chance to interrupt and express his confusion. "What kind of thing are you, spouting all this nonsense?" Unfortunately, the Book of Laws quickly presents its life perspective clearly. "I do not accept questions. Before participating, please choose one of 3 paths: submission, bloodbath, or abandonment." It begins to explain each concept concisely. Submission. Register humanity as a resource for the artifacts. Humanity will become nourishment for the artifacts, but the corresponding world will enjoy abundance. The Omnipotent One will receive the protection of the artifacts. Are you willing to sacrifice humans to strengthen the world? Bloodbath. Grant the Omnipotent One the power to directly erase those who displease you and build a utopian world. You can also dive into the battlefield yourself. Abandonment. Maintain the current state, receiving no protection from any artifacts. Must humanity fend for itself with the contracts, or will you just stand by and watch the world wither away? Ju Wen tries to absorb all of the information he just received, then impatiently clicks his tongue. All 3 options are total trash. His blunt, cynical interpretation makes the Book of Laws chuckle, reminding him with goodwill. That makes me feel quite awkward. However, not only is he not intimidated by those words, but he clears his throat and snaps back. "Shut it. I don't know what kind of game you're trying to play by suddenly appearing like this, but I've already proven my worth as an omnipotent one. Any further battles are unnecessary and meaningless." The fact that the other side can't provide a proper answer makes the Book of Laws fall into deep thought for a few seconds before murmuring politely. "You haven't made a decision yet? I understand. You will regret this very decision." The Book of Laws quickly returns Ju Wen to reality right after saying those cold words. Its unusual behavior makes him furrow his brows in anger. It feels terrible. Ju-won suddenly gets up and leaves the room, leaving Julie puzzled. What's wrong? Where are you going? Are you done with work? He doesn't even bother to stop as he says coldly, I'm going home. Don't look for me. This relatively blunt response makes her furious and she starts screaming, even though she can't change the bitter truth. What is this, seriously? At night, at Ju-won's house, also known as the Valhalla Palace, he is closing his eyes to meditate after that fateful encounter with the Book of Laws earlier. For some reason, Ju-won slowly opens his eyes only to see a little girl running toward him. Na-yoon happily reaches out. Daddy! Daddy! That sentence makes Ju-won unable to hold back a blissful laugh. Is it possible that you are my daughter? It really is you. Wow, it wasn't a waste to pester that fertility artifact after all. But the fun ends quickly. When Na-eun reaches out her small hands to grab Ju-won's hand. Daddy? The moment the girl sees a strand of spiritual energy radiating from his hand, she frowns in shock. Just a split second later, the peaceful space around them instantly vanishes, revealing extreme chaos that leaves Ju-won visibly confused. What the hell is happening? Na-yoon doesn't hear a word from the other side, but just cries and mutters when she sees her body being enveloped by countless golden threads of spiritual energy. What do I do? No, don't forget me. I was born to protect you, Father. Na-yoon sobs and reaches her hand toward Ju-won. Please, Father, don't forget me. Unfortunately, the action is cut short as the girl's small body explodes, creating a massive blinding shockwave that makes Ju-won wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the quiet night. He struggles to catch his breath, confused. What is this? A while later, Ju-won hurriedly takes his wife to the medical university hospital in the middle of the night, leaving Chajan to ask warily, Do you want an ultrasound? There's no appointment scheduled today. What happened? As he scratches his head, not knowing how to explain it properly, No, it's just Chizone quickly skips the back-and-forth questions to get straight to business. I understand. Now, wait, what? Not doing what? How could this be? The other person's trembling voice turns Ju-won's confused state into clear anxiety. Is something wrong? Chizone gives a hesitant answer that makes Aizen's breath skip a beat. The child has disappeared. How could that be? Only the child has completely vanished. This makes no sense at all. It's truly too strange. Chi-jan's blunt comments force Ju-won to search his memories again. He tries to recall the painful face of his daughter when that happened. The despair of that small family was ultimately just a chapter in a story for the Book of Laws to chuckle at. I told you that you would regret it, didn't I? The sudden heavy truth forces Ju-won to act strong and hug his grieving wife tightly. Aizen's body has absolutely no problems, and that's it, right? The sudden and heavy truth forced Ju-won to put on a brave face and pull his grieving wife into a hug. Aizen's body, however, was completely fine. What kind of logic is that? But the fact that the baby vanished without a trace, that completely defies common sense. It was precisely because of that line of thought that as soon as Aizen started resting to recover from the massive shock, he cleared his throat and ordered, Alethia's thread, manifest. An A-rank artifact specialized in connecting to a fetus to sense the baby's condition quickly appeared. Exasperated, I've told you how many times, Your Majesty. I am not a gender reveal relic for a child in the womb, even as Hugh sternly shook his head, denying the other's idea and leaving him completely stunned. That's not why I called you out. I need to check on my child. Despite the strange command, Alethia's thread still agreed to comply with the request. Understood. Starting target scan. Got it. Don't worry, the child is still alive. However, it seems she has been moved somewhere else. Speaking. In other words, she is in a state where she cannot be born. That bizarre response made Ju-won visibly anxious. What? Moved? Moved where? He looked at the rushed expression on the other's face, which made his thoughts clear. That is beyond my understanding. I don't know how much time passed, but Ju-won was back at the company before the sun had even risen. Without bothering to explain much, he commanded, Restore it. You have 10 seconds. Cheha couldn't even hear a word over the sound of his own heavy sigh. Seriously? What the hell is so important that you're calling me at this hour? To his surprise, that impulsive reaction earned him a solid knock on the head from the other. This is an emergency. Stop whining. The dissatisfied words accidentally snapped Cheha into gear, and he started yelling, "I mean, you dodge work and all these events just to go clear dungeons, and then you dump a pile of work on me and expect me to just show up at the office?" His outrage was quickly cut short when Elia calmly spoke up. "The captain's daughter has been kidnapped." As Cheha snapped to attention, he asked, "Wait, how? An unborn baby can actually be kidnapped?" Ju-won threw a few items straight at his face. "If you understand the problem now, hurry up and start restoring them." "Go!" As Cheha asked in confusion to distract himself from the pain. "What is this? It looks like a bunch of pillows." He received a relatively quick and concise answer. Morpheus's pillows. And the Onai Joker Zatika Dream Interpretation Manual. "I found something useful among the Greek relics to decode dreams, but they don't have any durability left. I'll have to lie down to use them, so Julian, you'll be the one to decode the dream." He immediately spoke up as soon as his name was called. "How do we use these?" "Here." Morpheus is the god of dreams in Ovid's Metamorphoses. He sends dreams to those who are sound asleep, sometimes using them to convey a message. Based on that myth, this pillow relic has the ability to recreate dreams the user has experienced, and the Juha team will decode those dreams using this notebook, the Onai Joker Zatika. Also known as The Interpretation of Dreams, it was written by the scholar Artemidorus. It is considered the oldest dream interpretation manual still in existence. Elia, having heard the gist of Ju-won's plan, cleared his throat and asked, "So, Julian will be the one using the manual?" He nodded immediately without a second thought. "That's right, and I will use the pillow." Cheha didn't wait for the other to finish, slamming his pen onto the table. As everyone turned their attention toward him, Cheha excitedly boasted, "Restoration complete!" A short while after Ju-won's plan had completed its next preparatory stage, Julian cleared his throat, his voice tense. "Now let's get started." Ju-won was quickly lulled into a deep sleep by the magic of the pillow. Thanks to that, he could slowly draw out the dream that had been causing such great turmoil in the user's heart, letting the others in the room observe it clearly, especially Julian, the lead, who was watching with a serious expression, waiting for what was about to appear so he could decode the dream of the other person. At that very moment, the image of the first time the father and child of the Zhu family met quickly appeared before everyone's eyes. The child's trembling voice, filled with confusion, echoed out into the space. "What should I do? The relics, they said I shouldn't have been born. Father, please remember me." The subsequent pleas were quickly swept away by a strange vortex of spiritual energy. "Go!" Julian's glasses exploded on one side, unable to withstand the shockwaves of the dream. Ju-won also snapped awake and sat up, sighing heavily. Damn it, the pillow exploded too. The horrific sight made Cheha cry out, "I clearly spent so much effort restoring that." At the same time, Aizen, worried about her husband, hurriedly stepped forward to ask, "Ju-won, are you okay?" Yet when Ju-won stumbled over his words, feeling embarrassed in front of his colleagues, "No, wait, don't worry." She felt even more anxious and pulled him into a hug. "What would I do if something happened to you?" He sighed wearily and muttered. "Like a madman," I said, "I'm fine." "How could you? Wait, why can't you see anything?" Her husband had confirmed it, but Aizen still didn't believe him and continued to express her heart. But luckily, Ju-won had already sensed the loop of questions about to happen and redirected the conversation to Julian. "So, what is the decoding result?" He, having just had his glasses shattered for no reason, felt a bit dissatisfied. However, Julian still answered as soon as he had enough information from the dream manual. "This is the work of the relics." That's right. The baby in the dream personally mentioned the relics, saying that the relics told her she shouldn't have been born. Cheha, hearing this for the first time, was slightly bewildered. The relics? What in the hell is that for? Julian wiped the glass shard still stuck to his face and muttered in frustration, "According to these decoding results, this is because the power of this unborn child is overwhelmingly great, or at least that's what the relics have judged. That trace manifested in the form of a dream." Julian picked up his broken glasses, trying not to notice the tense gazes around him, and added the following, "And the fact that these S-rank relics shattered just because they couldn't endure that dream proves that the one behind this must be at least SS rank." That final remark made Ju-won reveal his dangerous side instantly. SS rank, is that a god-level relic? At that very moment, the book of laws and rules appeared once again, separating him from reality. That is exactly right. You struggled so hard, and yet in the end you didn't gather any useful information, did you? I would have been kind enough to tell you if you had bothered to open your mouth and ask me. The sarcastic tone right at that moment made Ju-won hiss the name in anger. Yet the verbal abuse showed no signs of stopping. The rulebook gave a dark, twisted smile. Have you seen the consequences of delaying your decision on this policy, Your Majesty? Oh? Are you finally in the mood to choose? It quickly presented the 3 previous options again and added gleefully, if you're having such a hard time deciding, let me offer you one more option. Choosing to negotiate is an absolutely brilliant move. It allows you to coexist with the relics and brings prosperity to your world. Ju-won, read the contents of the new entry. Negotiate for the authority of the 12 arbiters. Become an arbiter to manage relics across all timelines and enable negotiation and trade with relics under the system's protection. Your Majesty and your family will enjoy eternal safety and prosperity. He quickly fell into a state of deep contemplation, immediately sensing how rigged the balance between these choices was. It was blatantly set up. They were forcing his hand to pick the negotiation path. What the hell were these bastards plotting anyway? After a long pause, Ju-won cleared his throat to speak. I've made my choice. The rulebook laughed happily and immediately engaged him. Oh, you see? It's much easier to choose now, isn't it? Unexpectedly, the answer that slipped past your lips, blood purge, was the answer that shocked it the most. The rulebook stammered, wait, hold on. Wasn't there a much better option, like the negotiation one? Before it could say anything else, Ju-won quickly laid out his stance. My nature has always been violent. So, blood purge is the perfect choice for me. The rulebook understood. Since the other party had no intention of changing his answer, it could only sigh and mutter, if that's what you say, then so be it. Fine. First, I will grant you the exterminator effect. You can now annihilate anyone you want. Who do you want to destroy first? Would you like to see the suggestion list? When Ju-won coldly stated his target, all of you damn relics, the rulebook shrieked in panic. What? You can't do that! Relics cannot be designated as targets for erasure. You are supposed to choose humanity as the target. Its frantic thrashing did nothing to improve his mood. Stop your whining, I'm not changing my decision. The rulebook flipped its pages madly in frustration. As a way to vent, it hissed, as a majesty tasked with protecting relics, how dare you utter such blasphemy as destroying us all? Until this very moment, Ju-won hadn't revealed his true motive. When I chose blood purge, you relics dared to kidnap my daughter, a child who hadn't even been born yet. Give her back right now or I will bury every single one of you. That statement struck a nerve with the rulebook and suddenly it adopted a haughty, annoyed tone. You should have chosen a wiser path from the start. I knew it. I knew it was impossible to reason with you. The negotiation has officially failed. We will treat your choice as a forfeit. The rulebook quickly vanished after that pronouncement, returning Ju-won to reality, where those closest to him surrounded him. Ju-won's face flared with rage as the rulebook's mocking laughter echoed in his head. Disaster was about to strike. There, let me sit back and watch how you survive without any help at all. When Ju-won spat out, "You damn bastard!" That outburst of anger caused a vague, confused reaction from both Julie and Chae-hei. Huh? Me? Why are you suddenly swearing at me? And why are you jumping up all of a sudden? Have you even been listening to a word I said? Ju-won sighed in frustration. Admitting the unpleasant truth didn't make the other two any less furious. My God, please! We're in the middle of a crisis and you have the brain space to daydream? Only Aizen sensed something was wrong and voiced her concern. What on earth is going on? He wearily wiped his face and let out an exasperated sigh. You've got to be kidding me. What the hell is happening out there? Before anyone could add another word, someone started pounding on the door from outside. Captain, are you in there? When Chae-hei instinctively wondered, Chloe, what's wrong? She hurried to deliver bad news with extreme tension. A major incident has occurred. As Ju-won's heart began to race with anticipation, Chloe quickly blurted out the most critical information. The citizens are experiencing something very strange. The kidnapping of Ju-won's unborn daughter was unfortunately only the beginning of this chain of disasters. The first abnormality everyone discovered was the sudden appearance of dozens of ownerless relics. Those items were precisely the reason why Baigun had to work overtime right at this moment. Did this relic just suddenly appear in your pocket? Gunboom didn't need time to think and blurted out immediately, That's right, no one gave it to me. I swear I've never even seen this thing before. Someone must have slipped it into my pocket secretly. I only held it. I didn't get sick or anything, right? Could this be some kind of terror attack? His noise made Huang Di angrily scream at him, "Hey, you! If you're done handing it over, move out of the way!" That very sentence led to a series of not-so-pleasant remarks from the group of people in the same situation as Gunboom, who had been waiting for who knows how long. That's right. Hey, get a move on! I really want to dump this relic and get out of here. Seriously, why are there so many of these things? Ugh! Don't you see the long line behind us? Speed it up! The commotion was becoming too much for the guard headquarters staff to handle. Returning home as usual, Julian quickly began explaining so his companion could understand. The cruel reality of life. This is just the amount of relics we've collected today. People weren't paying attention to anything else. So relics just appear in front of people without a dungeon being created? How strange. He had just picked up a crate of items. Turning to share this with his friend Loki, he added, "Reporting these to the guard is the best-case scenario. There are still people who actually take these relics and use them on the spot, not even knowing what kind of side effects they might cause. Terrible accidents have already started breaking out because of that." Elia couldn't help but chime in, but here's the real problem. Even the celestial eye can't identify these relics. It's clearly supposed to update with data on every relic in the world, so if there's a relic it can't recognize, that shouldn't even be possible, right? As if to prove the point, Elia quickly led Zhuo Wen toward a nearby scanner to see it with their own eyes. Starting scan identification failed. This relic does not exist within the celestial eye system. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, Crow Y hurried into the scanning room to break the bad news to Captain Zhuo Wen. We've encountered another anomaly. Future events are constantly being pushed forward. A relic scheduled for excavation next month just appeared inside the museum on its own. We're also seeing news reports about deaths that haven't happened yet. Reports of world leaders dying are popping up constantly, and we're trying to verify them. By the way, the reports also say you're fated to die on September 18th, Captain. Crow's final words naturally gave Zhuo Wen goosebumps, and he instinctively gasped, "What? Are you serious?" Suddenly, the lights in the large room went out as the system, the Celestial Eye, announced in a programmed voice, "Power supply interrupted. Activating backup power." Zhuo Wen instinctively showed his unease. "What is it this time?" Everyone stared tensely at the screens covering the room. Sona and Glow Y were the first to speak. "Power out? Man, this is bad." Even the brilliant Zhu Wen had to ask the most important question. What the hell is actually going on? Who knows how much time passed at the Colorado Plateau? Inside the ZR power plant, a massive surge of electricity suddenly erupted, triggering a chain of explosions throughout the plant in the middle of the night, sending the workers scrambling in a panic. "The ZR relic is losing control. Everyone evacuate, move!" Zeus stomped his feet in anger, his mouth still busy snarling. "Where do you think you can run, you human scum? Tell me, where is that emperor? The bastard who humiliated me. This time I will." Before Zeus could finish, Zhuo Wen appeared on the scene, sounding exhausted. "Looking for me? Everyone get out of here!" Though the workers didn't know who he was, they hurriedly called out before fleeing. "Thank you, Captain." Once the innocent people were gone, Zhuo Wen lazily mocked the idiot who was fuming in front of him. "You lost your most important part, yet you still look pretty lively, don't you? Zeus, you've got enough energy to go around causing trouble like this. But don't you want this back? I told you I'd only return it if you behaved." As soon as Zeus saw the piece that had been ripped from the body of the supreme god that was himself, he flew into a rage, unleashing his full power to attack the enemy before him. "Give it back to me, you bastard!" Yet Zhuo Wen didn't feel scared at all. He even rushed straight toward him. As his fist connected with Zeus's fiery, angry face, Zhuo Wen quickly froze, realizing something strange. But before he could act, Zeus punched him away. Zhuo Wen quickly regained his balance, thinking in confusion, uncertain. His Dominion skill wasn't working. Why? Still, the fact that he could break the seal and escape on his own was absurd from the start. This must be the fourth anomaly. The thoughts racing through Zhuo Wen's head vanished as Zeus's excited voice rang out. "Look at yourself! You aren't as strong as I thought. Great. I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget." Because of the special nature of the approaching enemy, Zhuo Wen had no choice but to use his trump card, Haze's Throne, to fight in his place. "It's a shame to have to tell you this, but besides my Dominion skill, I have countless other ways to crush you. See, I spent my free time studying these relics." Zeus, feeling his throat grabbed by the throne, cried out in frustration, not knowing the words. Unexpectedly, the chair turned around and unleashed a stream of leather straps, binding his massive limbs in a split second. Zeus screamed in panic when he realized he'd been forced onto Heza's throne. "What is this? Why is my power being sealed?" By now, Juo had regained his calm demeanor and began to explain Heza's throne, SS rank. "That's your wife's relic, the goddess Heza, a tool for reform. It forces you to keep even the smallest promises. And when it comes to the sin of betraying your marriage and family, the binding effect increases by 1,000%. In all those myths, just how many times did you cheat?" The threat quickly worked as Zeus began to sweat and stammer frantically. "No, stop it! Get this thing off me!" Zuowen had no intention of letting him go. Instead, he cheerfully dug into his pocket to show him something. "Don't get so worked up. I even brought a relic from another one of your wives. The Wisdom Isle Metis' mad wisdom of the goddess. This thing is SS rank 2. Metis, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, was Zeus's first wife. When a prophecy foretold that her son would become stronger than him, Zeus swallowed her whole. But Metis was already pregnant. She gave birth to and raised the child right inside his body. Fortunately for Zeus, the child was a girl. Later, when Zeus had a splitting headache and ordered Hephaestus to crack open his skull, a full-grown goddess in complete armor emerged from inside his head and stepped out. That was Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. While Zeus was still stunned by this new arrival, Ju calmly added a few cold remarks, making the other party tremble before him. That relic alone was scary enough. But what if I changed it into this shape? Getting hit in the head with this would probably feel really refreshing, don't you think? Right after he finished speaking, he leaped high into the air. Ju joyfully brandished the fist reinforced by Metis' mad wisdom at Zeus. "This time try giving birth to a son from your own skull now, you bastard!" It terrified him so much his face turned pale. Wait, Ju didn't bother thinking twice. He delivered a gentle blow to his opponent's head. Zeus was almost knocked out in an instant. Even a tear lingering at the corner of his eye suddenly fell to the ground. Unfortunately, Ju had no intention of sparing him and followed up with a perfect uppercut. How could just one hit possibly be enough? While he smiled happily, having vented some of his anger, Zeus fell backward from the overwhelming attack. The outcome of the fight was quickly decided, allowing Ju to breathe a sigh of relief. "You should have just stayed quiet and generated electricity. Who do you think you're rebelling against? Now hurry up and go restore that guy." Cheha, having just arrived at the scene, started shouting. "Seriously, was it necessary to beat him to such a pulp? You just needed to place Metis' relic on his head, right? Why did you have to turn it into a gauntlet and beat him like you were trying to kill him?" Ju didn't even think about it and said something that made the other guy choke on his words. "Because I wanted to hit him. Stop nagging and go restore him." Knowing he couldn't escape this fate, Cheha sighed in frustration. "It's just my luck. Why are you always so eager to beat Zeus up like that? And you even tore that thing of his apart?" This made Ju snap. "Shut up!" Shut, causing him to grumble under his breath. "You're always just good at telling me to shut up." Neither of them could have expected that someone was watching the entire scene from the moonlight above. He really is completely ruthless with those relics. A surge of excitement made Cheha from another timeline let out a cold laugh. "That's it! That's what I'm talking about!" He kept his eyes fixed on Ju silhouette, muttering to himself, "This is going to be interesting." Here, Zeus's rebellion has been quelled, but doubts still remain. First, why didn't the power plant's suppression system work? Second, why did the seal-binding Zeus break? Could it all be because of that strange book relic? Can a relic with that much power really exist? But before finding answers to those questions, another anomaly occurred. Hearing the drama coming from the TV, Ju couldn't help but sigh and mutter, "Why did that thing turn on by itself?" As soon as the question left his lips, Cheha from the other timeline, appearing as a mysterious host, happily introduced the show. Testing, testing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's death broadcast. The current count is 0 because the execution hasn't started yet. The camera zoomed out to reveal the crowded stands and the people present on the field. The appearance of 3 famous Greek gods, the SS rank god of destruction and evil, Set, the SS rank god of fertility and rebirth, Osiris, and the SS rank god of the dead and funerals, Anubis, left Ju clearly confused. What is this about? It is those Egyptian bastards. What the hell are they up to? Just then, Che-ha rushed into the room, not caring whether the other person heard his knocking or not. "Captain, we're in big trouble. Every phone and computer is playing this broadcast, and we can't even turn them off." "It's not just me. Every computer inside the guard headquarters is in the same situation. Every screen outside is showing this too." Just as they said, it was as if someone had hacked every device on Earth. The same program was playing on every single screen. It was clear how much the public would panic. But the situation got even worse, especially when Che-ha from the other timeline spoke up. "Now, shall we begin judging the guilty?" Osiris quickly unleashed his magic. As soon as Sung Kong was put on the guillotine, Che-ha from the other timeline cleared his throat and presented, "Our first death row inmate. This guy captured and snuffed out the lives of little creatures. Then he hid for 7 years. Do you agree to carry out his execution?" Almost immediately, the crowd on the stands cheered excitedly. "Kill him! Kill him!" making Che-ha from the other timeline thrilled. He whispered into the mic in his hand, "Excellent. Guilty." Those words made Sung Kong tremble with fear as he heard the sound of the Reaper's scythe approaching. A sweet swish made Che-ha turn pale with fear. Holy crap, they actually killed him! Thinking it was over. But no, Che-ha from the other timeline continued to place Min Hook where Sung Kong had been just moments ago. Now for our second prisoner, this guy pretended to be starving to receive extra relief supplies 3 times. His crime is disrupting the fair distribution process. Do you agree to execute him? Unfortunately, the reaction this time from the crowd wasn't quite what he expected. Wait, just for that? Isn't it a bit too much to kill him just for that? Well, he lied anyway. Kill him! This final statement made Che-ha from the other timeline happily execute Min Hook right away. Perfect. Then he shall also receive the death penalty. Che-ha, witnessing the whole thing, started to, seeing everything fall into chaos like this, my head is spinning. What is wrong with these lunatics? They're slaughtering everyone out there. Captain, are we just going to stand here and watch this happen? This whole situation is going to traumatize the entire world. After a long silence, Du-hwan finally let out a sigh and muttered, "We can't just let that happen." Suddenly, seeing the text scrolling across the screen, he froze. Only a split second later, Che-ha frowned and said, "That doesn't look like a normal phone number." It didn't seem normal at all, leaving Che-ha feeling tense and puzzled. Then what the hell is it? Overcome by curiosity, Zhuo-wen suddenly dialed the number. I guess we're about to find out. As soon as he called, that one simple act unexpectedly cracked the ground right beneath his feet. Zhuo-wen and Che-ha suddenly fell into a void. It was a strange dimension, different from their own. While he landed perfectly, the other guy crashed face first, looking like a total amateur. Du-han quickly regained his composure to look at the guillotine drenched in gore before him. While Che-ha was panicking, mumbling, "Who the hell are these guys?" he remained remarkably calm. Whispering a few words, "I knew it." Du-hwan quickly cast a spell, pulling out his heavy artillery right in front of thousands of people. He took a stance, turning the place into a circus. In this pathetic display, Zhuo-wen suddenly shattered the guillotine in front of thousands of curious eyes. I'm ending this right here. Surprisingly, that move drew chaotic cheers from the crowd. There's an intruder. Someone's trying to stop the judgment. Che-ha from the other dimension seized the moment to jump in and act like he owned the place. Everyone, there's no need to get so angry. You see, our next target has already arrived. This person had mocked the judges who controlled the relics and considered himself above the gods. At that moment, Che-ha from the other dimension delivered the final verdict. Guilty. Zhuo-wen narrowed his eyes, waiting for the enemy to make a move. As his opponent dropped a massive blade from above, he gently caught it with one hand. What's the rush? The blade suddenly cracked under Zhuo-wen's pressure. He crushed the blood-soaked weapon and spoke to the crowd in front of him. Well, you bastards, why don't you try standing trial yourselves? That action left the 3 gods terrified. Before anyone could even react, Zhuo-wen lunged forward. First was the runaway, Osiris, guilty. He delivered a crushing kick to his head before turning toward the other 2 criminals. Seth, for daring to bare your fangs at your master, you are guilty. Anubis, for conspiring in this pathetic scheme, you are also guilty. Unfortunately, just after Zhuo-wen finished them off, Che-ha from the other dimension gently revived the 3 gods. You're pretty good, but I'm not so sure about this. That's still not enough to stop the gods, you know that, right? No matter how much you struggle, you can't stop the execution. This scene, completely off script, naturally made Zhuo-wen feel more anxious than ever. Something wasn't right. Those damn curs don't tell me I have to fight them until they're torn to shreds? For some unknown reason, he accidentally remembered the item he had picked up earlier. The SS rank relic he'd obtained last time, Acet's Poison Fang. It was a relic capable of neutralizing targets through a very unique method. Among the countless titles bestowed upon Acet, she was known as the goddess of magic and strategy. One day, Acet sent a venomous snake to bite the sun god Ra. While Ra was in agonizing pain, she offered to heal him on the condition that he reveal his true name. This true name was the very essence of his power and existence. Finally, Ra's true name, after being discovered by Acet, was passed down to her son Horus, consolidating his divine authority. The moment Seth lunged at Zhuo Wen without waiting for him to recover, "You think you can do anything with that toothpick-sized blade?" He quickly pulled out Acet's Poison Fang to see the real name on his opponent's birth certificate. Thanks to that, Zhuo Wen was able to reverse his position on the battlefield. "Seth, you lost soul. That's your real name, isn't it? Your name doesn't hold any power anymore." With a single light slash, Osiris panicked at the sudden demise of his younger brother. What the hell is this? However, Zhuo Wen didn't keep his opponent waiting long as he unexpectedly started taunting him. "You're next, Osiris." "Acet. That's not such a secret name, is it?" The fact that he suddenly dropped out of the game without doing anything meaningful left the last one on the stage, Anubis, pale with terror. Unfortunately, thanks to the processing of the two traitors before that, now Zhuo Wen could chant the god's name while aiming his weapon. Inpu, ruler of the tomb, sounds pretty grand, doesn't it? To eliminate him without worrying about him reviving in the future. Just as the outcome was settled and only the nameless boss remained, at the moment Cheha sighed and muttered such honest words. "Captain, I told you to go easy on them." "Good grief, if I have to restore these guys again, I will." Zhuo Wen didn't say a word and finished his opponent with a single chilling strike, causing quite a commotion among the spectators in the stands. Zhuo Wen didn't care about their confused emotions and was only busy exposing the truth. "And you too, you who dared to wear the face of my subordinate to pull off this stunt are guilty." As he said that, the Che Ha-like figure couldn't help but burst into a crazed laugh before his face started melting like wax. The gruesome sight forced Zhuo Wen to look around the room with a look of disdain. "I knew it. All of them are fakes." That conclusion quickly forced the mastermind behind it all to drop his disguise. The Che Ha imposter stepped out into the light. Not bad. It seems the instincts of a veteran helped you spot the fake immediately, didn't they? His appearance made Zhuo Wen dumbfounded. What the hell? Why is there another Zhuo Wen crawling out of Cheha's skin? The moment he said that, Zhuo Wen frowned and closed his mouth to think. No, that's right. Perhaps he isn't Cheha. That train of thought forced him to stay calm and ask his question. What the hell are you doing, Du Cheha? I can't believe you hid those hounds and created a fake. Cheha from the other dimension waited for him to finish so he could offer a brief compliment. You catch on fast, but you're wrong about one thing. I'm not the Zhuo Wen, you know. Seeing the other's gesture, Zhuo Wen yelled in confusion. That thing, did you just steal that? And that line made the Cheha from the other dimension click his tongue in annoyance, leaving Zhuo Wen confused as he looked down at his own hand. Wrong again, he thought. This belongs to I'm not the only one here who's a king, you know, not even at this very moment. Zhuo Wen glared at the man before him as if facing a worthy rival. Who the hell are you? His question happened to align perfectly with the thoughts of the Cheha from the other timeline. The alternate Cheha just smirked, a look of refined arrogance on his face. Who knows how long had passed, but he was already sitting smugly in Zhuo Wen's office. It was a sight so bizarre that it left Zhuo Wen's closest colleagues completely stunned. As the room fell into a heavy silence, the original Cheha panicked. What the hell? Is that a copy of me? Zhuo Wen didn't deny it. He just gave an honest assessment. You guys look exactly the same. Their curiosity forced the alternate Cheha to clear his throat and stand up. How rude. My presence here, I am completely different. I am the king from another timeline. I stood at the absolute pinnacle of my own world. The moment Cheha heard that, he bristled with irritation. So what? Our captain is the only king here. To his surprise, that unconscious remark made the alternate Cheha burst out laughing. You don't even realize that your own world is on the brink of annihilation. What an incompetent king. No sooner had he finished speaking than he tossed 3 familiar-looking relics into the air, causing Cheha to frown and blurt out instinctively, Wait, those are Egyptian relics. The alternate Cheha expressed his true feelings gently. You should be thanking me. I stole them and kept them safe before their seals could be broken. As Zhuo Wen frowned, revealing what he'd been holding back. Thank you? From a thief who dared to touch my relics? Did you release Zeus too? The alternate Cheha couldn't help but laugh as he stepped toward his counterpart. Don't be so foolish. The very relics standing behind this disaster are what set him free. I'm only preventing those seals from shattering completely. If a god-tier relic gets out of control, this world is finished. It will end in total destruction, just like my world. The more I look, the more I see that this timeline is incredibly advanced, rich in relics and teeming with humanity. It would be a real shame if this place were destroyed. His weary sigh forced Zhuo Wen to speak up immediately. You keep mentioning destruction. What exactly do you mean? The alternate Cheha didn't even need to think to answer bluntly. Exactly what I said. There are god-tier relics out there right now going around destroying worlds. Before he could share anything else, a figure suddenly appeared in the room without an invitation. I think I know who those are. That person was none other than the Cradle of the King, named Chun, an SSS rank treasure. The alternate Cheha read this information and went dead silent, lost in his own thoughts. The Cradle. A treasure said to exist only as a single pair across all dimensions. I searched forever and couldn't find it. So it was here all along? He then turned to mock the newcomer. This cradle, you seem awfully peaceful, considering other worlds are drowning in destruction. Chun didn't show any unusual emotion, simply stating softly, as is my duty. I am simply protecting the testament of the king, the one who overcame the trials of the gods. Sir, I do not know if you have heard of the creator of the relics. He was a primordial blacksmith who forged the stories of humanity into relics. When the entities born from human memory and worship began to look down upon humanity, that blacksmith fought them, forging them into tools that humans could wield. Those are the relics of today, and that is how the order was established. Chun paused for a moment before dropping a crucial piece of information. However, there are stories that refused to become part of this order. They refused to exist in the form of relics. They shed their shells and returned to their original forms as stories, fueled by the ambition to rule over all of humanity. As the other waited for him to finish the alternate, Cheha walked slowly toward the floor-to-ceiling window to hide his expression. You can call them gods, can't you? Those leading the rebellion are all god-tier relics. Ra, Enki, Venu, and Nua. Those are the four. The gods of the four great ancient civilizations. That's correct, isn't it? At that moment, Zhuo Wen began to mutter to himself, no wonder I always wondered why relics from such massive mythologies never showed up. That unconscious remark made the alternate Cheha look at him in a new light. So you noticed something was wrong too? He quickly recalled his old memories of the place where he had encountered the three-legged crow, then slowly summarized the story. Yes. Every time a new dungeon appeared, I was always the first to investigate them. Precisely because there were so many god-tier relics that had yet to show themselves, but every time I came back empty-handed. Hearing about this for the first time, Cheha spoke on behalf of the others. So you weren't just clearing dungeons for fun? Zhuo Wen ignored the people around them and continued the discussion calmly. Of course, there's a reason they don't show up. They're too busy orchestrating a rebellion elsewhere. Their goal isn't just one world. The alternate Cheha nodded in immediate confirmation. They cross dimensions, reaching into every world. Their goal is the destruction of every timeline, or absolute control. This heavy information made Zhuo Wen's closest colleagues struggle to swallow. As the room fell into a tense, heavy silence, Zhuo Wen suddenly spoke up to break the suffocating atmosphere. So did they destroy the world you lived in? The alternate Cheha didn't even need time to think. That's right. As the conversation reached its most tense point, the Space A strange, deafening roar erupted from outside and the clear blue sky abruptly changed color, ignoring the noise entirely. The spatial anomalies showed no sign of stopping, causing Cheha to cough up blood. What? What the hell is going on? He screamed. Another version of Cheha in a different timeline looked outside, his face turning ghostly pale. He stared in total shock, as it was the first time he had ever seen a massive space-time rift floating in the air. What the hell is that thing? The law of the prime, manifesting on this earth. To lecture this other version of Cheha, the voice boomed, You lowly rat of a majesty, you really thought you could run away to this timeline? Huh? Running is useless. This place was already destined to be purged anyway. As he scrambled up the stairs, he cursed, Damn it, they're on us. They followed me all the way here. Zhuo Wen desperately tried to chase after his opponent to gain some control over the tense situation. Are those artifacts of the four great civilizations? A classic records. Scan for their characteristics and weaknesses. All of them. Unfortunately, it quickly delivered a bitter truth. I'm sorry, I cannot locate them. Zhuo Wen was clearly baffled. What do you mean? The classic records quickly revealed information he hadn't known before. They don't even exist in this world. At that very moment, the other Cheha shouted in a panic, Right! They don't belong to this world, so using any of that stuff is completely useless. What do you mean? In the midst of his fear, Zhuo Wen yelled back, Then how the hell are we supposed to fight them? We at least need to know where they are. How else are we supposed to counterattack? Suddenly, at the peak of the tension, the law played its trump card. Come forth, Book of Law, the familiar, mocking voice. It echoed from the void. We meet again. Majesty number 187,487. Let the first curse begin. What do you mean, begin? Chulian turned to talk to Zhuo Wen. Watch out. The four great civilizations are using that book to destroy the timelines. He froze, his brain unable to process what he just heard. As Chun started to open his mouth, confused, Zhuo Wen asked with a furrowed brow, What are you talking about? The Book of Law watched his bewildered expression. It gleefully presented a sinister-looking tower. By the time you realize it, it'll already be too late. This world will return to the silence of the past. When language was first born, it was so innocent. It allowed Zhuo Wen to read the details of this curse. The curse of the Tower of Babylon, which seals language, had been activated. It shattered all understanding and communication between humanity. Every form of language, including conversation, commands, and connections, began to collapse worldwide. He finished reading those cold, heartless lines and broke out in a cold sweat. The whole world? Suddenly, countless towers erupted from the ground, causing people everywhere to panic and scream in languages no one could understand. It was a horrifying sight. One he was witnessing for the first time, leaving Zhuo Wen slightly rattled. Every method of communication on the planet had been cut off in the blink of an eye. This was a true catastrophe. Right now, there were surely wars breaking out and countless hospitals stuck in the middle of surgeries. Zhuo Wen was so anxious that he didn't even notice his back was soaked with sweat. What about the air traffic control? If the countless planes currently in the sky couldn't receive instructions on flight paths or altitude, it would be an apocalyptic disaster. Driven by that thought, Zhuo Wen turned to his friend standing beside him. Elia, stop time! Only to receive the same reaction he had just had, which made him curse in frustration. Damn it! Suddenly, the system gave Zhuo Wen some good news. Language fengshou, sealing, is in effect, but the artifacts can still be used. He obviously knew who was responsible for this and muttered excitedly, You really are the best, aren't you, Qua? You think I'd give up that easily? Manifest Shakespeare's childhood pen? Even if we can't talk to each other, I just need to force you all to act. Ilya Vogel used Solomon's demonic artifact, which had the power to stop time, freezing the entire world except for the members of the organization. As soon as Zhuo Wen stopped the pen, Ilya's eyes suddenly flared. He quickly activated his deep inner energy to summon the Hell Knight with a piercing roar, Fukat! The moment the entity appeared, it tilted its head, confused. Do you want to behold a world where time stands still? Since no one could answer, Fukat used his own energy to freeze time across the entire realm. The birds that were scattering in the sky and the people screaming in panic on the ground, everything on Earth suddenly ceased all activity. This created an eerie silence that Earth hadn't experienced in tens of thousands of years. However, Zhuo Wen was able to remain outside the laws imposed by Fukat and couldn't help but let out a sigh. It stopped. The pigeons in the sky were forced to have wings but could no longer fly. Humans couldn't escape it either. Under the effect of the time stop, everything on Earth at this moment was imprisoned in stillness. Zhuo Wen exhaled as if a weight had been lifted. For now, everyone but us has stopped. However, Sun A and Julian still lost their voices like everyone else. The Book of Law was quite amused by the quiet scene unfolding. Incredible. I can't believe you stopped the disaster in this way. The three people below looked up at it in unison, their eyes full of caution. That book bastard, won't it stop? Hearing that, it sneered, How could I be affected by some mediocre artifact? But since you stopped it, I'll reward this world with a few bonus points, but you won't be able to stop what's coming next. No sooner had it finished speaking than another skyscraper sprouted from the earth. The freakish sight caused Zhuo Wen to curse out loud, "Damn it!" This time, it was a blue-hued tower. Even Sun. Accursed, despite the fact that she had lost the ability to communicate. A strange premonition made Zhuo Wen involuntarily look down. The phone he was holding in his hand emitted a terrifying source of energy. What is this? He wasn't the only one confused. Everyone shared the same feeling. Sun A was absolutely frantic. Suddenly, Raven let out a pained cry and collapsed, leaving Zhuo Wen completely shocked. Raven? What's going on? The Book of Laws spoke up calmly, preaching its twisted logic. The reason for humans and beasts to evolve differently comes down to two things. First, language. Second, tools. Now I shall strip both away from you. As it finished speaking, the system immediately flashed a warning. The curse of Vishvakarma has been activated. It will strip away and neutralize all tools and artifacts associated with humans. The god of craftsmanship in Indian mythology, who was said to have created all the tools of the gods. Zhuo Wen instinctively thought to himself, since it was a curse bearing his name, it seemed every tool was being destroyed. The anti-terrorism soldiers' radios had been neutralized. This curse is even worse than the last one. Not even the surgeon's scalpel was an exception. Once time began to flow again, Zhuo Wen didn't even need to think to predict the consequences. Human civilization would collapse. But would it also affect artifacts? Zhuo Wen immediately sought an answer from the source of all this. Looking at the book, he asked, "Why are artifacts also sealed?" The Book of Laws replied nonchalantly, "Because they are tools. Isn't that obvious?" Zhuo Wen just tried to control the pen from Sophia's book in his hand, teeth gritted, snarling, "Who are you trying to fool?" He had indeed struggled immensely while trying to control it. "Artifacts!" Zhuo Wen shouted in anger. "Remember how all of you were created." Sona and Ilya hadn't expected Zhuo Wen to do such a thing. With the artifacts. Writing is the axe that reshapes thought. Stories are the spears that pierce through time. The Akashic records in his hand glowed bright with every word he spoke, and writing is the eternal blade. Artifacts created from language, memories, and stories will escape this curse. It seemed Zhuo Wen's summoning was gradually affecting even Raven while he tried to expose the Book of Laws' scheme. You said it was a curse to neutralize tools created by humans, so you're intentionally binding the artifacts too, right? You think I'd fall for that? Being called out like that made it furious. Fine then. It admitted honestly, things not created by human hands, in other words. I will treat the artifacts as an exception. As soon as he heard that, Zhuo Wen and Sona both wanted to jump up and tear it to shreds. Suddenly, someone from the door behind them ran like the wind toward the Book of Laws. When he saw the figure clearly, it turned out to be Cheha with Solomon's earrings in hand. Zhuo Wen knew those were S-rank artifacts, capable of hearing every sound, but were currently being sealed by it. The Book of Laws had just lifted the first curse for everyone, so Zhuo Wen was able to speak. "How is it?" Sona replied joyfully. "It worked! We can communicate with each other now!" Zhuo Wen quickly signaled to the person beside him. "Great! Ilya, burn it to ashes!" Ilya's smile didn't reach his eyes as he spoke. "As you command." His scream tore through the air. "Rise, a lord of the Phlegethon flames!" Ilya's command was powerful. Rise from the forge of hell and burn everything to ash. The Phlegethon roared with hot fire in response. The Book of Laws couldn't stop coughing from swallowing the smoke of that fire. Astonishing! I didn't expect you to avoid the second curse this way. Perhaps the condition of the Book of Laws was still better than Zhuo Wen had calculated. It was just a book, after all, and the fire attack barely caused any damage. What? Ilya's demonic artifact is nearly god tier, isn't it? The Book of Laws spoke up, leaving Zhuo Wen stunned. "Let's see if you can avoid the remaining 2 curses." Cheha was panicking, tearing at his hair. "There are still 2 more curses?" The Book of Laws was incredibly smug. "I will cast a total of 4 curses upon this world. I wonder, O sovereign of this place, how many curses can you stop? If you manage to stop them all, this world line won't collapse." Zhuo Wen instinctively looked at Cheha beside him, his heart sinking. The collapse of the world line. The Book of Laws continued to gloat. Then, let's move on to the next curse immediately. The curse of the Nile. Sealing records has now been activated. The bookstores fell into chaos according to the Book of Law's curse. Just a moment ago, you protected the right to use artifacts even while being sealed from using tools. All the letters on the books slowly vanished, but even after going through this, even the world map evaporated, and the Book of Laws didn't stop provoking Ju-Wen. Will you still be able to use your artifacts? The system flashed a warning. The curse of the Nile has been activated. It erases records of the artifact's origins and makes using them impossible. In front of Ju-Wen was Che-Ha, with a look that was not very normal. The usually cold Ilya suddenly turned into an idiot. What is my name again? Even Ju-Wen refused to acknowledge the artifact in his hand. What is this? Ju-Wen hadn't expected things to be this serious. Was everyone's mind being wiped clean as well? He shouted in anger, I can't just stand by and watch this. Che-Ha stood by his side. Right now, only the Sovereign remembers how to use the artifacts, because the Sovereign is an entity that preserves memories. The gods of the 4 great civilizations used that book, the Book of Laws, to destroy world lines. The worlds I once knew were also destroyed in this sequence. Every human became a fool and eventually destroyed themselves. The Book of Laws was so moved that it exclaimed, as expected, their plan for the total annihilation of humanity is perfect. Ju-Wen suddenly let out a laugh full of contempt. So that's it. Thinking back, the name of the first curse was the Curse of the Tower of Babylon. That's Babylon, in other words, the sphere of influence of Mesopotamian mythology. The second curse was the Curse of Vishvakarma, meaning Indian mythology. These are curses related to the 4 great civilizations, and the name of this curse is the Curse of the Nile, definitely the work of an Egyptian god. If I had to guess, perhaps it's the supreme god who hasn't even shown himself yet? Ju-Wen smiled confidently at the Book of Laws. Is it the sun god? If I use Isis's artifact, it would be very effective against me. Seeing Ju-Wen's actions, the Book of Laws shrieked in surprise, That's cheating! However, Ju-Wen lunged forward without a care. Cheating, my foot! He was just like a baboon jumping from one place to another amidst the Book of Laws' panic. Stop! What are you doing? Ju-Wen sneered. What do you think I'm doing, you bastard? He lunged straight at the first golden tower. Ju-Wen struck without holding back, making the Book of Laws even more terrified. No, the very next second, the tower carrying the curse shattered into 100 pieces. And the system warned, the curse of the Nile has been broken, causing the divine power to disperse and the seal to be released. The letters swirled around Ju-Wen as he touched down on the ground. Everyone's dazed state began to fade as the letters flocked back to the bookshelves everywhere. They were present everywhere. Che-Ha looked at the childhood pen of the Book of Sophia in his hand. He shouted joyfully, Right, that's it! This is how you use it! He burst into laughter after seeing Julian's blank expression. Only Che-Ha noticed it. The letters were flying chaotically in midair. He couldn't help but exclaim, Seo Ju-Wen, you are truly unbelievable. Ju-Wen's gaze remained cold. Just like that, everyone snapped out of their stupor, and their memories and records began to return. Why did the letters find their way back to their respective books, as if they had always belonged there? Writing appeared everywhere. Ju-Wen suddenly took a deep breath and shouted, Come to me, heavenly rope! As soon as it heard the familiar call, the rope sped up. It darted toward him like a blade. Master! Master! This rope was an SSS-ranked treasure. Seo Ju-Wen scolded it lovingly. Rope? What the hell were you stuck in? During such a chaotic time? The rope clung to his side like a puppy. Suddenly, a strange energy bound my body and I couldn't move. Okay, it was so stifling, truly suffocating. Its whispers made Seo Ju-Wen realize, I see, because you were created from a story, you must have been caught in the curse of the Book of Laws. Che-Ha from another timeline watched Ju-Wen and the heavenly rope approach before speaking. I have never seen anyone who could dodge this disaster like that before. Ju-Wen instinctively raised an eyebrow, showing off. Not bad, right? He had just arrived when he heard its pathetic voice. I cannot understand this. They have lost their language records and their tools, yet these lowly humans still try to resist? I must admit, the Sovereign here is quite impressive. No wonder those people tried to recruit you. It seemed to have thought up another dirty trick. Well, since it looks like you still have a bit of hope left, I will crush that hope for you to see right now. The system immediately blared a notification. The curse of Fuxi has been activated, the curse that erases all hope in life. Seo Juhuan did not expect the Book of Laws to play such a big hand. The curse of Fuxi. Right. What remains now is definitely the curse of Chinese civilization. Fuxi was the one who taught writing to humans and spread the 8 trigrams so they could predict the future. The very nature of Fuxi, which always tried to look into the future, has turned into a curse, and vice versa. Currently, it is denying hope. Seo Juhuan gave a cold smile and retorted, "The name sounds grand, but it's quite abstract compared to other curses." Seo Cheha knew that things were no longer as simple as before. No, this is the most dangerous curse. Look at the state of your world right now. Humans cannot communicate, and all tools have been destroyed. The moment time flows again, chaos will erupt in a world where only artifacts can be used. What do you think hope is? At this point, Seo Cheha's finger unconsciously pointed at Ju-1. It's you. Without the sovereign, even artifacts cannot be used. The Book of Laws no longer used its former biting tone. Listen well. You are the sliver of hope for this world, sovereign. In other words, if you die, this world, where only artifacts can be used, will be completely powerless. So, from this moment on, I will destroy the one who holds that hope. Seo Juhuan was angered by those words, as if a blockhead like you could, but he was suddenly dragged back while trying to lunge at it. Seo Juhuan and the rope were both tightly bound by its magic, and the system just displayed a notification. The anecdote of annihilation has been activated. It is trying to destroy the sovereign. Everyone was extremely worried about him, Captain. What's happening? The Book of Laws gloated, "Now that you have become a character whose story has reached its end, surrender your heart obediently." But its wish was not granted due to the rope's counterattack. A strike from the rope created a heaven-shaking explosion, and even the rope seemed surprised by its own power. Upon hearing Juwan's coughing, "Wait a second, what are you doing?" The rope immediately took on human form and answered him, "Master, I will protect you." But the words just spoken immediately met with fierce opposition from Julian and Ilya. "Hey, we almost died. It doesn't like this at all. It's really troublesome." The Book of Laws launched an attack aimed straight at Ilya. "I will not go easy on you anymore." Its tentacles flew forward at a shocking speed. Because he was in a passive position, Juwan had to watch as it rushed toward him, piercing directly into Juwan's body. Shina screamed in panic, "Captain!" Cheha's face also went pale at the cry for Seo Juhuan. Their captain was suffering torture. The monster tentacles of the Book of Laws pulled the sovereign's heart out of Juhuan's body decisively. It shrieked in delight, "Yes, this is very good." It didn't forget to provoke the members of Juwan's team while they were deeply worried about him. How beautiful, how relieving. At least one curse is working effectively. I had such a headache when you kept using those little tricks to bypass the curses. The rope shook Ju-1 while sobbing. "What's wrong, Master?" "Hurry, get up! Wake up!" Someone on the team shouted. "Hurry, take out a healing artifact! Call Crow Y here!" The Book of Laws was overjoyed to see that heartbreaking scene. In a situation without the sovereign like this, do you really think you can protect this timeline? "What?" one team member asked, confused. "Protect? What do you mean?" It replied, "Did you truly think the disaster had ended? From now on, trials will periodically descend upon this world number 187,487. Ilya gritted her teeth and hissed, "That bastard!" The rope furiously unleashed an attack toward it. "I will never forgive you." However, it didn't spare her a glance. If you pass the trial well, a reward will be granted. If you fail, an additional penalty will be added. In a way, I am the game master, and you are just my supporting characters. The rope's attack successfully choked the body of the Book of Laws. Its whole body was being burned by her flames. "What are you doing? What kind of trick is this?" It was slammed hard to the ground by her and began to panic. "Wait, calm down. If you can block even just one of the 4 disasters, a special privilege will be granted." The rope shouted while continuously throwing it from one place to another. "What is it? What is that privilege?" "Even though it's just one of the 4 disasters, one privilege will be granted." The rope shouted while continuously tossing it from one place to another. "What is it?" "That is the privilege." "What?" The Book of Laws finally knows what a party is. "All right, you used some cheap tricks, but you managed to block it. Blocking the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd disasters, that's 3 privileges in total. That's a steal, and Rope doesn't want to waste any more time. Messing around with it. What are you talking about? What the hell are you saying? It was shrieking after those fatal impacts. Ouch, all right, I get it. I'll consider the green tower dealt with. I'll wipe it out completely. Once released, it grumbled in frustration. You really can't communicate with these things. I'm leaving now. People like you could never hold me back. Where? She cried out in confusion. He's gone! He's disappeared! The moment the Book of Laws vanished, a dark circle appeared in the sky. Crowy suddenly ran in from somewhere and shouted, I'm here! Does anyone need a healing relic? Captain Rope returned to Zhuo Wen's side. Master! Suddenly, someone's loud voice boomed. What the hell do you think you're doing, you brat? A massive crack suddenly appeared in midair. It turned out the shout came from Zhuo Wen. Ilya saw him and was left speechless. Captain? Wait, why is Julian? He was just as bewildered. Zhuo Wen? You're not dead? He glanced at the Zhuo Wen beside him in shock. Then who is the one lying here is... As the disguise faded, Cheha's pained face was revealed. Zhuo Cheha! Zhuo Wen lunged forward, grabbing the other timeline's Cheha by the collar. You bastard! Hey, what did you do to Cheha? How dare you lay a hand on my subordinate? The Cheha from the other timeline smirked. I saved your life, and you don't even have the grace to be grateful. Grateful for what? Zhuo Wen screamed, infuriated. That bookhead freak? I could have handled that trash on my own? The other Cheha sighed and mocked him, as if you could actually do it. You couldn't even finish summoning a relic. Back when Zaytung appeared and caused that massive explosion, Zhuo Wen had struggled to summon his. It was true about the relic, but he never expected Zhu Cheha to use an artifact handkerchief to swap his body with Cheha's. The handkerchief quickly wrapped around Zhuo Wen, before he could even understand what was happening. Wait, what are you doing? Zhuo Wen's face was instantly replaced by Cheha's. Looking at the person lying still on the ground, Cheha said coldly, If I hadn't pulled you out of there, your heart would have been ripped out. Obviously, Zhuo Wen didn't want that to happen. So you mean you sacrificed my subordinate just to save me? Zhu Cheha warned him seriously. The Book of Laws isn't stupid. I had no other choice if I wanted to fool him. But don't worry, your subordinate isn't dead. He suddenly pulled a cup of ramen out of nowhere and dropped a line that left Zhuo Wen so shocked his eyes nearly popped out of his head. His soul is in here. Zhuo Wen couldn't believe his eyes. A cup of instant noodles? Are you kidding me? What kind of ridiculous lie is this? Before he could finish, he jumped back at a shrill scream coming from the ramen cup. Then came Cheha's complaints. Hey, you maniac! How could you shove a human being into something like this? I'm a human, not food. He was extremely dissatisfied with his situation. Who gave you permission to do this? But Zhuo Wen covered Cheha's mouth before he could make them go deaf. Judging by this blabbermouth attitude, that's definitely Zhu Cheha. You scared the hell out of me, you brat, Cheha chirped back, embarrassed. The captain wasn't happy for long before Zhuo Wen hissed, But out of everything, why did you have to pick the non-spicy ramen? You really have no taste. Spicy flavor is the only truth. He recoiled in fear. Is that really the important issue right now? Zhu Cheha advised him. I even turned it into a god-tier relic in my own way, so just drop the taste issue. Cheha quickly defended himself after realizing his new identity as a god-tier ramen cup. God, I can't believe I've become a cup of instant noodles, Chloe asked Zhuo Wen anxiously. Captain, I've never seen anything like this before. He wasn't dead even though he had lost his heart. It was as if time on his body had been frozen. Zhuo Wen turned to ask Zhu Cheha, Can he be saved? He quickly gave him the answer. We just need to take back his heart. Now is the perfect opportunity to launch a counterattack against the 4 great civilizations' relics. They think you're dead, but you're still alive and your world is still usable. Relics. This is the only place where such a case exists. Only worlds that have compromised with them are allowed to use relics, and your very existence is extremely unique. I've wandered through many different worlds, but I've never seen anyone like you. You dodged Vishvakama's disaster and the fangs of Asit. You even broke Da's curse. If it's you, Solju Huan, you can dominate the relics of the 4 great civilizations and end this disaster. Finally, Zhu Cheha revealed his true purpose for seeking out Zhuo Wen. Help me defeat them. Zhu Cheha's gaze was calm as he looked straight at him. If it's you, Xiao Chuo Wen, you can dominate the relics of the 4 great civilizations and put an end to this catastrophe. He slowly extended his hand as if inviting the other to cooperate. Let's defeat them together. Jucheha lowered his voice, every word carrying irresistible weight. By doing that, you can get your subordinate's heart back, and more importantly, your daughter. He continued calmly. I heard they kidnapped her. If we crush them, you can reclaim your daughter too. Those words unintentionally stirred up painful memories in Zhuo Wen's heart. He silently bowed his head, his expression somber, as if overwhelmed by pain. After a month of silence, Zhuo Wen slowly asked, You asked where they are, right? Jucheha didn't beat around the bush and immediately answered, They are hiding in Amaterasu's space. He furrowed his brows slightly, his eyes showing a flash of surprise. Amaterasu? He nodded slightly and slowly explained, That goddess was able to hide herself and avoid being turned into a relic. Jucheha continued, his tone still even, as if reciting a report. The space where she is hiding is being used by the 4 great civilizations' relics as a shelter. Zhuo silently repeated the name in his thoughts. The anonymous goddess Amaterasu. Records he had once. Red quickly appeared in his mind. Amaterasu is the sun goddess in Japanese mythology. When her brother Susanoo, the storm god, flew into a rage, legend says she hid in a cave because she was so angry. Zhuowen's train of thought continued. As she went into hiding and the world plunged into darkness, the gods held a feast and danced, to lure her out of the cave. He slowly drew his conclusion. She was so good at hiding that she could even avoid being turned into a relic. He nodded slightly in agreement. With that speculation, Jucheha continued to reveal secrets that Zhuwen had never known. While hiding in the space of Amaterasu, the relics of the 4 great civilizations had released books of law to destroy world lines and subjugate the sovereigns there. He paused for a beat and then continued coldly, And for the sovereigns who refuse to submit, they will rip their hearts out. Hearing that, he couldn't help but clench his fists in fury. Those lunatics, what on earth are they taking their hearts for? Jucheha paused for a moment as if remembering something. I forgot to explain that, didn't I? Yuen looked up at him, eyes full of suspicion. Explain what? Jucheha explained calmly. From the moment a person becomes a sovereign, our hearts will no longer be ordinary hearts. He continued, his expression turning grave. They become the axis of the world line and the core of that world. They are called the sovereign's heart. Jucheha narrowed his eyes, slowly revealing their objective. They intend to collect these hearts to reverse the relicification curse. He concluded his explanation with a truth that sent shivers down the spine. They want to erase the basic rule that all stories are born in the form of relics, or perhaps to transform it into the shape they desire. Yuen frowned slightly. Are those things really possible? Jucheha nodded calmly. Just one sovereign alone can control the relic laws within their own world. He continued, his tone still as composed as ever. If they gather many hearts together, they can even change the supreme rules. After careful consideration, he quickly made his decision. I understand. I will have to hunt them down if that is the only way to save this guy. Jucheha called out feelingly. Captain? Yuen clenched his fists, his gaze becoming determined. Let's invade and destroy everything, and I will reclaim my subordinates and my daughter. Jucheha smiled, satisfied with the other's resolve. That's the spirit. So shall we set off? I have a dimensional travel relic. He immediately asked, Wait, how do you know where that book of law is? He replied nonchalantly, I can track the energy of the law book. Joanne nodded slightly, but still had things that needed handling. That's convenient. However, he slowly continued, his tone turning much more serious, I need to stabilize my world before leaving. Once time starts flowing again, all human-made tools will shatter, and people won't even be able to communicate with each other. Joanne immediately issued orders. First, use the flying relic to bring down the planes currently in the sky. Sona immediately bowed in obedience. Understood, Captain. Julie breathed a sigh of relief. After hearing the plan, it's such a relief that we can resolve that while time is still frozen. Ilya quickly raised another issue. Captain, there is also the issue of communication. I think we can temporarily handle it by creating copies of this translation relic and distributing them. He smiled slightly, his eyes turning to the bowl of noodles in his hand. Besides him, who else could handle copying on such a large scale? As if thinking of something, Juen immediately turned to Jucheha. Wait, can you help me a bit? At that exact moment, a piercing, urgent horn sounded. From far away, he immediately turned his head toward the sound, his face full of confusion. "What is that sound now?" Her voice was hurried. "Look there." At that moment, a streak of crimson radiance suddenly tore through the gloomy sky. The cold voice of the triumphal arch suddenly echoed, "This world is a world that has lost its sovereign." It continued to declare in a cold, emotionless voice, "The conditions for invasion have been met." Without giving anyone time to react, the triumphal arch coldly announced, "Starting conquest scenario." Juan looked up at the sky. What the hell is that? The system notification suddenly rang out. Triumphal Arch, Rank 2 S-Grade God, Invasion Type Intervention Relic, upgrades based on the number of records accumulated. Docheha frowned slightly, slowly explaining, "A world where the sovereign has perished becomes an empty world. When that happens, sovereigns from other world lines will invade to plunder the relics in this place." He looked up at it, his voice tinged with dissatisfaction. "The Book of Law has spread the news about this place. Everywhere already, that was fast. What a sinister thing." He coldly clenched his hand. "Don't make me laugh." Without hesitation, Juan immediately summoned his divine weapon, Gundia. The system immediately confirmed, Gundia, Rank 2, S-Grade God. He pointed the spear tip at the opponent. "How dare you invade here at will?" Its lips curled up. "How interesting." "I'll pierce right through it." The next moment, Gundia suddenly halted in surprise. "Huh?" The system's voice immediately sounded, "You have been blocked by the trait of the sovereign of this place, which also requires the awakening of a sovereign." Suddenly, another voice spoke up confidently from midair. "Hello?" The declaration of conquest, Mac slowly raised his hand. "From this moment on, this world," his lips curled into an arrogant smile, "will be ruled by sovereign Mac Al-Kanel." Mac observed the state of the world, his face full of interest. "Let's see. The curses of the Book of Law in this world are..." The system immediately displayed all information. World Book B 40,918. List of curses of the Book of Law. Curse of the Tower of Babel is in progress. Curse of Vitvakanaman has been dispelled. Curse of Name has been dispelled. He widened his eyes, astonishment evident on his face. "What? 2 curses have already been dispelled? Impressive." Mac quickly realized the abnormal state of the world before him. "And there's even someone who froze time? I'll have to release this first already." The system's voice immediately rang out. "A sovereign from another dimension has used their privilege to remove all debuffs, has been activated. Target, the entire world." Right after that, the timeline of the world gradually began to move normally again. Countless rocks and debris poured down from above, causing people to panic. The crowd was terrified and ran around in chaos all over the streets. He immediately realized the change. Time is flowing again. He didn't hesitate for another second. Immediately. "Summon. We have to stop him." "Get out here, Bazin!" Julie hurriedly interjected, her voice laced with anxiety. "Stop it! The communication issue is still there. Disasters like plane crashes are bound to happen." "There it is." Max smirked, his eyes gleaming with amusement at the chaos. "So what? Wouldn't that just make things even better?" He waved his hand dismissively. "What was that?" he asked, acting indifferent as he explained. As if he were talking about something completely trivial, he added, "If people die, the binding contracts on their relics will be released. That way I can collect a massive amount of bound relics." Juan gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with frustration and resentment. "It's useless. He's not someone who can be reasoned with." Juan frowned slightly. "I've heard of that, but his methods are completely rotten." The crow began to explain, "That guy is doing this by using the privileges he possesses." Chun suddenly remembered something and turned to remind him. "Don't forget the rule book also left a privilege for you." The rope suddenly rattled. "Right! I just found something like this. I found it." He looked down at the item. In his hands, his expression shifting to surprise. Tier 3 S-Rank Miniature Rulebook. He quickly opened the book, his voice full of urgency. "I'll summarize the necessary parts so you can read it more easily." The system's voice droned on, beginning to list. Privilege 1. Absolute Edict. You can make a wish to win, but you cannot resurrect a world or people who have already died, and you cannot create matter from nothing. Once a decree is declared, it cannot be revoked. Each majesty is only permitted to use this a single time. Privilege 2 acquired. Future regression point. Capable of saving and reloading time. Privilege 3. Setting change. You can arbitrarily modify one rule of a world line, limited to one category. Juwon stood still, lost in thought, his eyes gradually showing admiration. Can it really do all that? If used correctly, it could be absolutely terrifying. Below on the ground, the crowd was still panicking, scrambling to escape everywhere. Max scanned the chaotic scene, his lips curling into a sadistic grin. Now, because time has started flowing again, I'll begin collecting those relics. Immediately after, he stopped hiding and unleashed his full, terrifying power. He raised his arm, his voice echoing across the sky. All residents of this world are now my slaves. Start searching and plundering the relics. The people's eyes turned hollow. They knelt in unison, chanting, "Long live His Majesty!" The manipulated people scattered immediately, shouting endlessly, "Find the relics for His Majesty! Bring forth the relics!" Relics! Juwon observed the scene before him. Is that the power of the Arc de Triomphe relic? Son. A received a report and spoke up urgently. Captain, they're reporting that the planes have started moving. Communicating with the control tower is completely impossible due to the language barrier. He quickly checked the data. The flight paths are all tangled up. The first collision is expected to happen in 397 seconds. He clenched his fist, a sense of urgency surging within him. Damn it. I have to do something to fix this before anything else happens. Juwon suddenly turned to look at Ju Che-ha, his eyes dead serious. Hey, you, craft a relic. He paused for a moment. What? Craft a relic? He nodded. His voice was firm. Yes, you can do it, right? Juwon continued to explain, his gaze unwavering. My relics are quite intelligent, and they told me everything about your specialties. He calmly listed his feats. You're the one who created that flashy execution stage and perfect replicas of 3 god-tier relics. Juwon slowly continued. In a blink of an eye, you recreated Ju Che-ha's heart into a majesty's heart and deceived the rulebook. With that ability, crafting a relic is obviously possible. His eyes suddenly turned cold. You came to my world and caused this mess, and you turned my subordinates into minions. You have a duty to take responsibility for this. Juwon stared at him, his voice carrying invisible pressure. You can't run away. Ju Che-ha sighed, finally relenting. I understand, but I can't just create a random relic. I can only craft them based on the structure of stories I already know. He pointed to his head and smiled. Don't worry about that, everything is already in here. Juwon slowly read the notes. Genesis, chapter 11, verse 1. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. That's the beginning of the story of the Tower of Babel. He closed the book, his eyes lighting up with a plan. Create a relic using just this excerpt. We will use the curse of Babel in reverse. Juwon slowly recounted the story written in Genesis, chapter 11, verse 1, the beginning of the Tower of Babel story. The whole world had one language and a common speech. Mankind built a city and a tower that reached the heavens so they could make a name for themselves forever. He continued reading, his voice calm and steady. However, God descended and saw that. He said that if people continued like this, they would become too powerful and arrogant. So he confused their language and scattered them across the earth. Juwon continued his plan. In this story, we will only use the part before however. I'll craft a relic using just that passage. We will use the curse of Babel in reverse. Everyone around was silent, intently listening to every word he said. Ju Che-ha laughed softly, his eyes flashing with admiration. My, how cunning, but that's a good strategy. All right, I'll try to craft it. How about it? He raised his hand, slowly calling out the name of the relic about to be formed. Tablet of Genesis, chapter 11. Ju Che-ha poured all his power into his hands and shouted decisively, Manifest! Then, a brilliant pillar of light erupted from the ground. Its ancient voice echoed slowly. Now, the whole world has one language and one common speech. He calmly reminded him, Done, but you might not be able to use it. What? Juwon paused, confusion instantly flashing in his eyes. What? Why not? Ju Che-ha began to explain the reason. Come to think of it, this is a religious relic and it's from the Bible too. You'll need a certain level of compatibility to use things like this. Is there anyone here who can use it? Like someone who is a believer? He scanned the crowd, then suddenly remembered. If we're talking about a believer, we have one. Ilya pointed at himself, bewildered. Huh? Ju-Won smiled at him. Ilya, before this, you were a priest, right? You probably know the scriptures by heart. In terms of compatibility, you're probably the most suitable person here. He shouted angrily, Why? Why are you looking at me? That was a long time ago. I specialize in demons now. Son. A tilted her head slightly, offering a pragmatic remark. Right, if something happened, he'd probably be even weaker against Christian relics than before. Du-Hwan shook his head slightly. Forget it. Even without compatibility, we just need to use a massive amount of power. Using Dominion to suppress it will be enough. Du Cheha looked at him in disbelief, his brow furrowing. You? Even when you haven't even awakened yet? Du-Wen curled his lip into a smirk, his voice full of certainty. What's with this awakening thing you keep harping on about? Besides, I'm very confident in my power of Dominion, so just wait and see. Immediately after, Du-Wen unleashed a powerful surge of energy toward the stone tablet. The light exploded violently, forcing him to narrow his eyes against the blinding glare. The system's voice rang out quickly. God-tier relic activated. Genesis Tablet, Chapter 11. Unifying the languages of all beings into one target human language. Relic of the Majesty. Animals. All living creatures. Immediately, brilliant streams of light radiated everywhere. The hypnotized citizens below were still screaming frantically in the chaos. As the light swept through, everyone instantly regained their normal consciousness. A citizen looked around, bewildered and confused. I can hear other people. What is this? The others are still confused, not understanding what happened. What am I doing here? Even a stray dog on the street shivered and let out a sound. I'm so scared. A soldier widened his eyes in shock and turned to his comrade. Huh. Now I can understand what they're saying. The other soldier regained his composure and said, Let's move now. The system's voice droned on. The world's languages have been reorganized into a single language. Du-Wen breathed a sigh of relief, a satisfied smile on his lips. Success. That took quite a bit of effort, though. The rope jumped up in excitement. Master, you're so cool. Seriously, so cool. Du Cheha looked at him for a moment and remarked, You really are a monster. Chu quickly received the latest report and immediately announced, The aircraft are avoiding collision risks. They report that communication is going very smoothly. Du-Wen nodded slightly upon hearing this. Good. A soldier immediately used a loudspeaker to guide the citizens to evacuate. Citizens, there is a shelter nearby. Please evacuate immediately. In the distance, Mark gritted his teeth, his expression showing clear annoyance. Damn it! Why isn't my relic activating? Unwilling to accept defeat, he tried to activate his power once more. All those who have been conquered, bow your heads. Submit to the will of the conqueror. A citizen looked up at the sky, bewildered, and said, What was that sound? The person next to him instinctively looked up and muttered, guessing, Thunder? Is it going to rain? He quietly observed everyone's reaction. They say history is written by the victors. The Arc de Triomphe is exactly that case. Du-Wen continued to analyze the true nature of it. Conquest is the act of creating a difference between above and below, the ruler and the ruled. It only has meaning if that class system exists. He cast his eyes forward and said, But this relic is what eliminates that difference. The rope jumped in to continue, its voice full of excitement. It unifies the languages of all living things into one single language. All existences become equal. A citizen looked at those around him and smiled slightly. We are equal to each other. Another nodded in agreement. We are equal. The rope quickly concluded, the boundary between ruling and submitting has been nullified. Eyes widening, his expression unable to hide his shock. What is this? My Arc de Triomphe? Du-Wen looked straight at him, his voice calm. Your relic, which operates based on the division between the conqueror and the conquered, has become completely useless. Mark gritted his teeth tightly, his eyes flaring with intense rage. You bastard! Do you think you've won just because you neutralized one of my relics? He curled his lip into a cold smirk, his killing intent rising. This battle isn't over yet. No sooner had he finished speaking than Mark sliced his own palm. Crimson blood splattered everywhere. He held up his blood-soaked arm and chanted the summon with great authority. Come forth, my allies! A strange voice echoed out. I've been waiting for a while now. Mark, the one just summoned, slowly replied, "Is this the new ruler?" Ducheha's expression shifted. "Huh? That's him? He called those from other worlds?" He laughed triumphantly, his face full of confidence. "No matter how much you talk about equality, the essence of it is just a high-efficiency teleportation relic." Mark slowly spread his arms as if everything were going according to plan. "Once those from other dimensions can understand each other, this invasion will become much easier." He froze, his expression turning ugly. "What?" Ducheha quickly realized the gravity of the problem. "The effect of this relic is reaching even into other timelines? No way." Countless possibilities raced through his mind. Among all the relics he had created until now, none had ever produced an effect that spanned across multiple timelines like this. He looked at everyone's faces and wore a triumphant smile. "This still isn't the end, is it?" Just then, Aiza's helmet suddenly flared with a bright red light. Duen immediately turned to look, his pupils constricting in surprise. "What?" Under the power of Aiza's helmets immediately lunged to cover everyone's heads. Name changed her expression instantly, shouting a warning. "Watch out! That's Aiza's helmet! Once you put it on, you won't be able to distinguish friend from foe anymore." She continued to shout, her voice filled with urgency. "You will see every living thing as your enemy." Chulian stumbled forward, his gaze losing its focus. Before his eyes, everyone turned into blurry, hostile figures. Chulian roared, killing intent erupting in his eyes. "Who are you? I'll kill you all." Elia smirked. "Oh, try it if you can." Cheha panicked and shouted hurriedly, "Huh? What's wrong with everyone? Wake up!" Sun A turned coldly toward him, her eyes filled with murderous intent. "Shut up, I'll kill you first." He angrily lunged forward. "I'm going to boil you and eat you." Cheha turned pale, instinctively letting out a cry for help. Seeing Ducheha still retained consciousness, she was immediately relieved. "You're still awake?" "Thank God." He gritted his teeth, trying to fight the relic's influence. "I'm only barely holding on myself." She suddenly reached her hand forward, her eyes filled with ferocity. "Give me that Li Mi." Ducheha looked at everyone, his expression turning even heavier. "I never thought I'd see that relic stuck in a place like this again." Aiz gritted his teeth, his eyes scanning the crowd with deep anxiety. Chulian glared at the people in front of him. "What the hell are you guys? Get lost!" "Here!" Elia, completely oblivious to the situation, rushed forward excitedly. "Huh? Why? Why is everyone panicking and rushing in here?" Mark stood with his arms crossed, watching the chaotic scene with an amused smirk. "Look at you all, just fighting amongst yourselves." "Die!" he said slowly, his tone laced with mockery. "Humanity is all equal, right? That's even better. As you said, that means rankings have been eliminated." Mark's lips curled up, his expression growing more smug. "In that case, this relic will work even more effectively." Chun looked at Ju Wan with concern and spoke up urgently. "Oh no, it seems His Majesty can't hear much of anything." Quickly weighing his options, he decided firmly, "I'll have to use another way." A system voice suddenly echoed in his head. "Privilege 3. Do you wish to use your setting change privilege?" Although Ju Wan was momentarily stunned by the prompt, the system privilege immediately displayed the details. Privilege 3. The setting change privilege can be used to arbitrarily modify one rule of a world line for a single category. He suddenly remembered the final card he was holding. "That's right. The privilege. I still have that." Immediately after, Ju Wan struggled to clench his fist, trying to maintain his consciousness. He raised the ring high, letting a brilliant light erupt violently. His eyes became incredibly determined. "When I make this decision, I'm going to use it." Mark gritted his teeth, his eyes fixed warily on the light, not hesitating for a second as he activated the power in his hand. Setting change privilege activated. As soon as the light energy exploded, Ju Wan utilized Seol Ju Wan's privilege. Mark O'Connell. Staggered by the shockwave, he squinted and shouted, "What?" Despite Isaac's helmet on Ju Wan's head, at that moment, brimming with excitement and arrogance, he raised his voice once more and declared, "Within the territory of all supreme god-tier relics." With every word that fell from his throat, lightning bolts began to converge between the heavy black clouds, and then the original version of Isaac's helmet was forced to passively endure the heavenly tribulation. Following the declaration belonging to Ju-won, relics of lower tiers would be neutralized. Witnessing the whole scene with his own eyes, Mark O'Connell was so stunned he couldn't believe it. No way. Isaac's helmet! And in the next moment, the red helmets on the heads of those around them suddenly developed cracks. There was no need to wait long, as they automatically dissolved when the power of the main subject was exhausted. Before the bewildered gazes of those who had just been controlled, Ju-won couldn't help but feel doubt, as his mind had only just recovered. What am I doing? It didn't end there. A flat yet powerful voice suddenly resonated throughout the space. Isaac, the god of war in Greek mythology. As the story followed its course, the opponent's tone suddenly dropped to emphasize the next point. However, holding the binding item, the supreme god tier SS rank spear of Zeus, Ju-won didn't hesitate to give Mark a smile so triumphant and bright. He was still standing under Zeus, his face twisting with rising rage. He ground out through gritted teeth, "You have a supreme god tier relic? And using the privilege of the law book means this bastard are you a majesty too?" Responding to the claims from his opponent, he didn't mind showing the arrogance built upon a solid foundation. And naturally, the moment Ju-won's identity was revealed, the enemies rushed forward aggressively. "Allies, catch him for me! The majesty of this world is still alive!" The system's electronic screen flashed repeatedly. Coordinates of invading relics are being adjusted. Signal detected from the heart of Majesty Seol Ju-won, commencing immediate retrieval. Seeing the distance between them closing, the people standing on the rooftop of the high-rise building couldn't help but panic. "Captain, they're rushing over here. Damn it, let's get out of here first. Everyone, prepare to move." However, before they could do anything else, the cup noodle Cheha in Ju Cheha's hand, from another timeline, suddenly erupted with golden energy, successfully confusing everyone around them more than ever. Where is all this steam coming from? Who poured water on him? He, the person who had to experience it personally, was even more confused, wondering, that's not what happened. What is this? What is happening to me? Just when they thought the anomaly had ended, the steam escaping from Cheha's current body became even thicker to the point where it covered the vast space, even spreading to every building and street in the city at a speed visible to the naked eye. And clearly this successfully blocked the enemy's senses literally. What? I can't find his heart. I've lost the target coordinates. And then a series of screens filled with system text popped up to explain the situation. Ju Cheha's survival instinct trait has been activated. Protection of stored food, defense, and stealth functions have been activated. Seeing this, Ju-won was stunned. You even have a skill like that? Then he didn't forget to affirm it to his opponent with a teasing tone. You're really just like a relic now. The other timelines, Ju Cheha chimed in. For the time being, he really is a relic. The cup noodle Ju Cheha could only protest immediately. I'm a human, you know. And at that next moment, Ju-won went straight to the point with a smile that never faded. Good. With this, I can attack while invisible. Let's make him taste the pain he caused. Without a moment's hesitation, he summoned Acid's venomous fangs. How dare you arrogantly invade my world? And not bothering to tell his allies to stay back, Ju-won dashed off like a rocket. Meanwhile, Mark was clearly confused amidst the flow of steam escaping from the cup noodle Cheha. You brat, where are you hiding? But the sound that suddenly echoed caught his attention and made his sharp eyes narrow. However, his speed could not keep up with Ju-won, who had suddenly jumped out to attack with Cheha's support. Without a hint of hesitation to let Mark talk much, he plunged Acid's venomous fangs right into the enemy's chest. Got you! The arrogant smile on Ju-won's face curved to more than 45 degrees, as if he held victory in the palm of his hand. Unfortunately, despite the support from an SS tier relic, Mark still had enough strength to grab his wrist. Ignoring the beads of sweat running down his cheek, he still spoke aggressively as he closed the distance. Do you think you can take down a conqueror with just that tiny little knife? Do you think I wouldn't? Bringing along any defensive relics, really? Unfortunately, responding to Mark's ill-timed arrogance was a deeply contemplative reminder from Ju-won. This is no ordinary blade. What? And then, a powerful, deep purple surge of mana erupted from his hand, following Mark's eyebrow-twitching confusion. What was that? Screen notifications followed. System update. The ICS venomous fangs have locked onto the target, the conqueror Mark O'Connell. The conqueror's real name has been erased, and Mark O'Connell's imperial authority has been extinguished. The triumphal arch that once stood tall in the space became so shaken by this that cracks spread everywhere. Naturally, the symbol of power was also... Even IZ's helmet couldn't possibly escape the agonizing fate that made him scream, even though he only relied on a single fatal blow to succeed in driving Mark crazier than ever before. The nameless, my power, my authority. Yet he didn't let him disappear so easily, as a hand firm as a vice quickly tightened around the opponent's throat. Right then, the long hair in front of his forehead almost obscured every expression crossing his face. A nameless conqueror is nothing but a thief, and then, at the moment. Next, that taunting tone came out of Zhuo Wen's throat once again. Do you know what happens when you get caught stealing? As soon as the last word fell, excitement surged in the depths of his eyes as he decisively pulled Mark straight in, without a single moment of hesitation or intent to go easy. A powerful strike. Enough to shake 10 layers of heaven, Zhuo Wen unleashed it. And just like that, he became a human cushion under his feet. Naturally, Mark couldn't escape vomiting up bright red mouthfuls of blood, ignoring the layers of stone affected, flying past his face. Even though Zhuo Wen kept that punchable smirk after finally venting all his emotions on his enemy, he didn't linger, but stood up decisively. You're nothing special either. And clearly Zhuo Wen didn't want to stop everything there, as he even proceeded to the step of peeling. Stripping. After all, do you have any good loot? Hand it over. After that, his blue pupils showed pure interest at the moment something accidentally fell into his line of sight. Look at this. What is it? Lifting Atlas's orb to admire it, he remarked with great interest, You actually have some decent stuff, don't you? Having lost his initial momentum. Now he could only stutter, Stop it. Unfortunately, his strength was no match for the other, so Mark had to perform a useless show of trying to get back up and lunging at the item in Zhuo Wen's hand. Give it back to me. And then he couldn't help but be startled at the moment he suddenly changed his tone. Sure, I'll give it to you. Naturally, nothing good would come of it, as Zhuo Wen decided to channel mana into the orb of Atlas. Here, I'll use it on you directly. Suddenly, above his head, a shadow clearly manifested, covering the entire area. To clarify the situation, the system didn't forget to jump out and check for existence, activating a relic tier item. The Divine Orb of Atlas, effective at forcibly transferring the weight of the world. Not letting Mark wait too long, the massive object belonging to the relic directly weighed heavily upon his shoulders. Unfortunately, the energy source in his body had already been shattered by the ICIS venomous fangs, so resisting the Atlas orb was even harder than ever. The ground under Mark's toes was crushed by the weight of the item in his hands, leaving none of the arrogant smile from a few minutes ago. Now, Zhuo Wen's expression held only a cold seriousness. The thing you are trying to steal is an entire world, so you should bear the weight yourself. Go on. Unexpectedly, despite the terrifying weight on his shoulders, Mark could still manage a hearty laugh. This is only the beginning. The others won't let you be. And your ending will be exactly the same as mine. And then, unsurprisingly, the blood belonging to him sprayed up to eye level with Zhuo Wen. The system also jumped out right on time to announce, Invader Mark O'Connell has been defeated. He only calmly assessed, even at death's door, you still babble on. At this same moment, but in the middle of the sky, the subordinates under his command were beginning to panic. What? Is the space gate closing? Mark is dead. And then, all kinds of ways to express emotion before this terrible news were clearly displayed by them. He lost? No way! I don't care anymore, I'm going home! Dancing on Zhuo Wen's shoulder with pride, the cup noodle version of Zhuo Ha let out a sigh, and didn't forget to raise his voice. That's right, run home. If you stay and resist, you will have the same end as this guy. Satisfied, witnessing the enemy run away with their tails between their legs, he directly issued a command to the item that had just taken Mark's life. Shrink Atlas Relic. At the same time, Zhuo Wen's attention was drawn by a resounding voice from somewhere unknown. We won! Our Majesty has won! With just one glance, he had recognized the thing creating the connection between him and the subjects in other realms. This screen. What is it? Has it been broadcasting my battle this whole time? And then, at this very moment, Zhuo Che-ha appeared to answer Zhuo Wen's question. That's right, because Mark declared war. Majesty. When a majesty declares war, Majesty, the Book of Laws, will broadcast it to all members involved in that world line. Because the losing world will become the territory of the victorious world, so everyone's attention will definitely be focused on it. After that long lecture acting as a teacher to fill in Zhuo Wen's knowledge, he switched to the next issue with a smirk. Since you won this time, why don't you check the loot? Looking at the place where only the blood of Mark remained, a spark of light flashed as he repeated the words, as if to confirm, loot, huh? And then, not letting Zhuo Wen wait long, a crystal block radiating red fire appeared in the space. His eyebrows furrowed slightly as he blurted out 2 words. What is this? The 3-legged crow landed on the ground and spoke up. Following that, it is Marco Cannell's heart. In other words, witnessing Zhuo Wen collect the item in his palm, a steady tone continued to resonate from her. That is the Majesty's heart, after getting the explanation. Responding to the 3-legged crow, Zhuo Wen was still a bit surprised while repeating the words to confirm with a hint of doubt. This is the Majesty's heart? With a solemn face, she lowered her voice, continuing with the information she possessed. With that, you can absorb and use Marco Cannell's imperial power. What? And it was enough to make him surprised. Can I really do that? Right at this moment, the system also jumped out to provide data and pose the question. Marco Cannell's ability is the Conqueror's authority. Do you wish to absorb it? Without a trace of hesitation on his face, Zhuo Wen casually declared with an excited tone, Of course I do. That name sounds cool. Because an orange light wave. It surged with such intense ferocity. This sent the clown group, who had just rushed over, into a panic, shouting Captain, and Zhu Wen, concealing Xiao Zhuo Wen, hurried over as well. However, they were forced to stop at a distance because the power radiating from Mark's heart was too overwhelming. In just a split second, that energy. Inside his body, Zhuo Wen felt a violent shift as he absorbed the magic from his master, and then a deep pensiveness washed over his mind, replacing the excitement from moments ago. In the face of a conqueror's power, is that a conqueror-type ability like Chairman Cheha's? The system immediately popped up to explain the new skill. S-rank mutual slaughter. The effect is that regardless of rank, everyone views each other as conquerors, and they start tearing each other apart. Watching every line of text clearly written on the digital screen, a bead of sweat rolled down Zhuo Wen's cheek in shock. What is this? Isn't it? Is this a skill to suppress others? Cheha, standing beside him, calmly spoke up. Updating information. Abilities adapt to suit the personality of the one who absorbs them, and in that very moment, next, you successfully received it. He laughed heartily, laced with mockery from Cheha. It suits your image perfectly, doesn't it? Captain, you love creating chaos, don't you? From the enemy's perspective, you're exactly like a devil. And clearly he had stepped on a terrifying landmine when Zhuo Wen roared. Screaming at the top of his lungs, you brat! Someone boil some water. I'm going to take this guy and cook him. Cheha was so scared he jumped, immediately shouting, Save me! Just as the two were acting like idiots, the rule book popped up to audit them. The page was overflowing with existence and suspicion. Hold on, how could this happen? You were supposed to be dead for sure. A smirk curled on his lips. With a cold, mocking curve, Zhuo Wen didn't hesitate to throw the problem back at the other party. Look who it is. You were so excited when you stabbed someone in the chest, and now you just realized you ripped the wrong person's heart out. See, that's just how it is. There, I won anyway. Surely I'm not forbidden from getting my reward, right? Fury radiated from the book, so intense that veins bulged on the cover. It was infuriating, but the rules are the rules. Take this and get lost. Leave. The system promptly announced, obtained title, Sovereign of Chaos. Presence has increased significantly. Accidents and incidents will constantly follow you, and the probability of being attacked by artifacts preemptively will increase slightly. As soon as it finished its job, the rulebook vanished into thin air. I'm out of here, you wretched sovereign. I hope you die soon. Having successfully shifted his own anger onto Zhuo Wen, the bastard didn't stay bitter for long. He just let out a sigh. After settling his thoughts, he figured, whatever. If I draw all the attention away, the others might have it easier. That made Suna jump, huh? Under the warm sunlight hanging high in the sky, Zhuo Wen's deep, steady voice echoed everywhere. Why the surprise? All the trouble here has been resolved. I have to leave immediately. In the next moment, he spoke in a serious, measured tone about the future plan. You all stay here. I'm going to save my daughter and that guy too. I have to chase down the rulebook, turn Cheha back to normal and handle everything else. He then showed eyes glittering like stars in the galaxy. Go safely, Captain. We wish you the best. Unfortunately, they couldn't stay happy for long before Zhuo Wen poured a bucket of cold water on them. You're coming with me, too. If I can't turn you back to normal, I'll use you as emergency rations. Just with those words, he successfully made Cheha wail. But I'm a human being. All those moving, touching moments had vanished into smoke. Ignoring the sulking person, he just threw him up onto his shoulder. His sharp gaze shifted to the person opposite him. And you too, fake Du Cheha. You have to lead the way. He nodded without a second's hesitation, other than minding Zhuo Wen's judgment. Understood. Fake? Having just dealt with the two Chehas, Sun A nearby firmly expressed her stance in a hurried tone. Wait, Captain. We are staying here. Why can't we? We are going with you. Naturally, Aaliyah was there, trying to persuade him with obvious logic. Do you trust that person? His face is exactly like Cheha's. He has the face of a scammer and a traitor. Mentioning this, Zhuo Wen's expression turned solemn as he continued. That's right. Earlier, you saw the power of that book. It's going to be extremely dangerous, even for me. We should go together. Aaliyah quickly chimed in, insistent and not forgetting to ask a question from the bottom of her heart. Exactly! You intend to take that scammer with you but leave us behind? Sun A added. We are teammates. We should go together. Once they finished explaining, Zhuo Wen directly threw back a question just as serious. You want everyone to leave, only for them to raid our home while we're gone? After a moment of silence, finally Zhuo Cheha waited for the people who doubted him to finish speaking before he also spoke up. Zhuo Wen is right. The invaders might come back here just like before. Moreover, the rulebook might suddenly issue quests. If you succeed, you'll receive privileges, but if you fail, you'll have to suffer the penalties. We really need someone to protect this world line. With a smug look, Zhuo Wen concluded that the role now belonged to Sun A's group. You heard him, right? The mission you've been assigned is incredibly important. Handle the rulebook's quests and accumulate as many privileges as you can. That will become my power. Stay here and protect this place with Eisen. Go. And then, the moment the last word left his lips, the person just mentioned appeared right behind him. Are you leaving? At that next moment, she carried the anxiety befitting a wife and shortened the distance between her and Zhuo Wen. It will be very dangerous. Facing his life partner, he decisively dropped Cheha from his shoulder and turned to Eisen. Zhuo Wen's rough, large hand placed itself onto her soft face, and then he emphasized every single word. I still have to go. I have to bring our daughter back. Don't worry, you know who I am. I've never come back with empty-handed as always. Unlike when he faced enemies or allies, the smile on Zhuo Wen's face right now was overflowing with tenderness. You trust me, right? In the end, he couldn't hold it back any longer. Tears welled up in Eisen's eyes, trembling at the brink, and then, after a brief silence, she realized there was no stopping her husband, so she gave him a firm hug. If you're lying to me, I'll bankrupt you, Zhu Cheha replied gently. Well, after that emotional farewell, it was finally time for Zhu Cheha to hand over the item he was holding. All right then, let's get going. A giant question mark practically hovered over Zhuo Wen's head, and he couldn't help but ask, what's with that bean? Seeing his confusion, he didn't mind explaining at all. It's a dimensional teleportation relic, even if it doesn't look like one. And then in a heartbeat. The item he tossed was engulfed in a golden glow, dropping straight into a hole in the ground without making them wait a second longer. In the blink of an eye, a massive vine-like trunk exploded with growth, startling the birds, and before they knew it, the tree. The beanstalk had shot up high enough to pierce the clouds. Watching the whole thing unfold from up close, Zhu Cheha couldn't help but break into a cold sweat as he remembered the dimensional relic. It's Jack and the beanstalk. Calm because he already knew the drill, Zhu Cheha stated nonchalantly. You can reach other worlds from the top of the tree. The bean successfully stirred up some resentment. How long is it going to take for me to climb this thing? Zhuo Wen grumbled, quickly having an idea. Zhuo Wen immediately turned toward the Sun A group, who were so eager to tag along just seconds ago. Right, only one person with a teleportation relic needs to follow me, so who wants to come along? And clearly, this only fueled his rage further, enough to make him shout, Why is everyone avoiding my eyes? A minute ago you all said you'd follow me. Elia quickly made an excuse. Didn't you tell us we had to protect this world? After a moment of contemplation, Son A declared firmly, I'm staying here regardless. Julian was even more blunt, cutting ties. Go on then, safe travels. Get moving already. It made Zhuo Wen scream incessantly, You traitors! Just at that moment, Zhu Che-ha, acting as the mediator, had already scrambled up a portion of the trunk. Stop complaining and just climb up here. Once you start, it's not that bad. Zhuo Wen pouted while repeating his words. Especially complaining, huh? With no other choice, Zhuo Wen had to accept it, starting his grueling physical and vocal workout. I'm asking, how long will it take? To climb this whole tree? No matter how much I climb, it feels like I'm just stuck in one place. Sweat trickled down his cheek. Answering him was a stern lecture from Zhu Che-ha. It was designed for many people to use. So what do you want? What am I supposed to do? I went through so much trouble to get this thing. Just climb and stop whining. Think of it as muscle training. Zhuo Wen wore an indifferent expression. The mockery was clearly written all over his face. Muscle instinct, really? You're the only one who needs that. After the jab, Zhuo Wen immediately summoned the relic from his hand. Heavenly rope, come forth. It appeared instantly, not forgetting to add, Did you call me, master? Without a hint of hesitation or doubt, he made his request. Can you take me up there? And true to form, the rope didn't let him down. Leave it to me. Relying on external help, he calmly took the lead. And he didn't forget to inform Zhu Che-ha, who was lagging behind. Thinking about it, I've got a few relics for travel myself. I'm heading off first. Good luck. Watching the whole scene unfold with his own eyes, the guy shouted immediately, That's cheating! To which he received a smug look from Zhuo Wen. What are you talking about? I'm just conserving my stamina. And after being shocked and enduring that endless climb, Zhu Che-ha finally expressed his desperation. Give me a ride too. Time flew by, and by the time he crawled to the top of the beanstalk on his own muscle power, Zhuo Wen had been waiting there since the afternoon. This scenery is truly strange. At this altitude, they could see the full moon clearly. The ground beneath their feet wasn't the city from before, but layers divided by vines. Relying on his own understanding, he asked with a slightly hesitant tone, So, each one of these is a different world? Zhu Che-ha nodded decisively. That's right. Having been through so many ups and downs, Zhuo Wen just sighed, unbelievable, before moving on to the essential topic. Anyway, where did that book of laws go? He handed out privileges way too easily. Pointing toward the blue glass-like surface, he spoke with a firm tone. Next, the book of laws definitely headed in that direction. I'll create a path right above the entrance. Unlike the struggle during the climb, the branches from the beanstalk now reached toward the target under Zhu Che-ha's direction. Amidst the cool breeze, Zhuo Wen spat out each word with a smug tone. Don't tell me that when I come back I have to sweat buckets crawling down, too. Right? Answering him, besides a gentle smile, was a leaning leap that defied all expectations, creating a pose that looked cool from every angle. He smirked and affirmed, of course not. And then, before long, the whole group touched down. Zhu Che-ha and Mi Lai had finally woken up, struggling to regain their energy. He immediately jumped up and went straight to the point, asking, Where are we? Did I pass out after falling with the captain? It's the captain. Captain, what are you looking at so intently? Now, facing the Zhuo Wen group was an incredibly luxurious city with architecture that oozed extravagance, enough to leave Che-ha stunned. What on earth is all of this? Then, the system immediately popped up to notify them of their location. World line 3002. World name, Dionysus's Cup. Status, current Mad City. It's active. Observing the panoramic view unfolding before his eyes, Juwon voiced his assessment with a hint of uncertainty. The guideboard looks really strange. Dionysus's Cup is the reason everyone is holding a glass because of the world's name? At the very least, it didn't look like a destroyed world. The moment Che-ha jumped onto his shoulder, even though the Che-ha from a different timeline asked directly, Do you really think so? The last word had barely left his lips when the group of native residents suddenly went hysterical, screaming, Drink! Enjoy it! Entrust your body to the artifact! From the cracks all around, a source of liquid. The blood-red liquid kept spreading, releasing steam throughout the entire area. Despite having experienced countless situations big and small, Juwon still had to knit his brows at the intensity. coming from that pink mist. This smell of alcohol, Jeha, being more sensitive than ever, hurriedly interrupted. Captain, it's not just the smell of alcohol. The system popped up right on time. With its encyclopedia-like existence, it detected the intoxicating components at that moment. Juwan was truly dumbfounded, unable to stop himself from judging. What? Intoxicating agents? Looking at them closely now, it seems like no one here is sober at all. As someone who had overcome many worlds, and as a ruler in a different timeline, Jujeha answered them directly. Yes, every majesty has a different way of managing their world. In this place, they make people drunk and paralyze their reason that way. No matter what plan you make, Majesty, they won't be able to interfere. And the very next second, his long, slender fingertip pointed straight at the high-rise architecture amidst the colorful streams of light. The Book of Laws must have reached the Majesty's place for sure. That place, the Majesty's place, is over there. You can see it very clearly right in the middle of the city. Stepping decisively onto the neatly paved ground, Juwan simply muttered, "There, I like it like this. Let's finish this quickly and get out of here. This place gives off a very uncomfortable vibe." Little did he know, he hadn't gone far before Jujeha stopped him. "Wait." Then, cutting straight to the point instead of rambling, Xiao Juwan, "Check your wrist first. Go." This made him jump slightly as he turned his head. Huh? Then, a number, 50, clearly printed, slammed straight into Juwan's pupils as he obediently did. As told, "Why is it on my wrist?" And then the very next moment, Juwan quickly regained his senses, showing such astonishment that sweat rolled down his cheeks. What is this? Staring at the symbol appearing on the other's skin, Jeha was so shocked his jaw almost hit the floor. 50? Are you kidding me? He couldn't hide his anger and confusion, snapping, "Why is it so low when I haven't even done anything yet? How have you been living that your default stat is like that? 100 is the maximum." Juwan stood rooted to the spot, completely baffled by this absurd situation. "Explain this, and what is that red thing on your left hand?" Jeha took a deep breath to regain his composure, then slowly began to explain. "To put it simply, that is the rule for governing this world. The green number on your right wrist represents your sanity stat. If that number is high, you can maintain your sanity for a long time. But the problem is that your sanity stat will continuously drop even if you don't do anything. The red number on your left wrist is your madness stat. To use artifacts in this world, your madness stat needs to be high. However, as madness increases, your sanity will also be depleted, so balancing the two is very important." To ensure he didn't miss any danger, Juwan cautiously probed every detail. What happens if the sanity stat drops to 0? He coldly delivered the answer. "You will lose your free will and become a puppet of this world's majesty. You will become an NPC just like in a game. Most of the majesties turn people into NPCs to easily rule their worlds." His eyebrows knit tightly together. Frustration evident on his face. How terrible. How? Curiosity, just a bit more, urged Jeha to look at the other's remaining arm. "Anyway, what is your madness stat?" Juwan immediately held up his other wrist in front of the other. His gaze unconsciously followed the movement, staring intensely at the glowing numbers. The moment those numbers entered his sight, Jeha screamed in terror. 99? Are you serious? In a fit of extreme agitation, he lunged forward, grabbed his arm, and shook it hard. "You're truly insane. Just how far gone are you bastard?" Seeing the person opposite him completely losing control and acting out, Juwan's face darkened as he warned, "Hey, watch your mouth." Jeha's mind spun, trying to recall the basic knowledge of this world. You need a madness stat of at least 30 to become an artifact user. At around 70, you can already become a high-level artifact user. But 99? A huge question engulfed his mind. Just what kind of secret are you hiding? A secret so earth-shattering he only dared to keep it to himself. At that level, he could even use a god-grade artifact. Contrary to the chaotic thoughts of Jeha, the only thing he cared about right now was clarified. In short, there's no way I can't stop an artifact, right? That's enough. Let's go find the majesty of this world now. Enough. The two strolled, weaving through the bustling crowd, dancing and singing enthusiastically on the streets, while Juwan was busy casting his eyes around, observing the scene. A system interface suddenly popped out of thin air, blocking his vision. Doubt arose in his heart. What is this? Jeha also glanced down and proactively held out his own wrist, The number on there is indeed gradually ticking down. My sanity stat is dropping automatically. I told you it would drop on its own even if you stood still. But this city is a living cup of wine, so you can get drunk just by breathing. Your sanity number is plummeting like crazy. It's already hit 60. Why is mine dropping so fast? That far. Jaeha, currently perched comfortably on Ju Wan's shoulder, couldn't help but chime in. Are you saying you were a lunatic from the very start? Ju Wan grabbed him without hesitation. Take him! He shouted, then charged toward the fountain of wine gushing nearby. I'm going to boil you alive in that wine. Feeling a genuine sense of danger, Jaeha cringed in terror. Please, I beg of you. Mercy. Suddenly, a pungent, bizarre scent of wine drifted past his nose, causing Ju Wan's hand to freeze mid-motion. This scent. Sanity points. Your sanity is dropping sharply again, now down to a measly 20. You hurriedly stepped back a few paces to put some distance between yourself and the fountain. Wine. You covered your nose tightly with your hand to keep the fumes from seeping in. Prophecy tells me this scent is trouble. Ju Wan scanned his surroundings and noticed a critical detail he had carelessly overlooked from the beginning. The canals flowing throughout the streets, regardless of whether they were filled with wine or something more sinister. The entire city's atmosphere must be like this by now. I can't survive in this critical state for long. Your brain raced to find a way to save yourself. I need an artifact to neutralize this wine stench. You, fake Jaeha, is there anything you can do? Jaeha rubbed the back of his neck, his face twisted in clear reluctance and avoidance. You want me to create another artifact? Ju Wan didn't even pay attention to his attitude. He was calmly analyzing his next moves. Even if you cannot use artifacts because your madness stat is too low, can't you use your king's ability to create one? You said yourself it's a unique skill that... You rubbed your chin with your finger, the corners of your mouth curling into a calculating smile. Then that's exactly what I should use. Let's see, should I make it rain to wash everything away? I'll turn the water in the canals back into normal water. A comparison of epic proportions flashed through Ju Wan's mind, like Noah's Ark. Create a great rain artifact based on that story. Jaeha immediately recoiled. He protested loudly and vehemently. What? You want me to create another religious-grade artifact? Don't talk like it's easy when that's not even your own power. Contrary to his panic, you waved your hand dismissively, treating it like a joke. You just need to adjust the scale so it only rains on this city. Is that so hard? Always complaining. You're just like the real Jaeha. Ju Wan crouched down and used his index finger to draw a jagged arc on the ground. The land. That much is possible, right? You know that story, don't you? The more detailed it is, the higher the success rate. Before the other could refuse, you began to ramble, spelling out every detail. The story goes that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The water rose 15 cubits, submerging even the highest mountains. After that, Noah's Ark entered a new world and received a blessing to multiply everything on Earth. Ju Wan's encyclopedic knowledge made Jaeha shudder. He instinctively stepped back to keep his distance from the lunatic in front of him. How does he remember all that? It's unbelievable. Though he grumbled internally, he knew he had no choice and focused his energy. Done. As soon as the item appeared, your expression darkened with disgust and disappointment. What is this umbrella? I wanted Noah's Ark. Ignoring Ju Wan's grumbling, Jaeha lazily opened the umbrella to shield them both. Like this is better. Our clothes won't get wet. Get in here too. Suddenly, pitch-black clouds billowed in, swallowing the city skyline and obscuring the last rays of light. Ju Wan dropped his usual playful smirk. His eyes turned deadly serious. Unless you want to get soaked. No sooner had he finished speaking than the first heavy, fat drops of water slammed into his face, the umbrella, and quickly blanketed the entire city in a white curtain of rain. A newly crafted artifact, the rank a judgment rain. The downpour poured down, mixing into the wine canals circling the city, causing the water to churn violently. The artifact's effect helped purify the air for a set period of time. This judgment rain didn't just cleanse the city, its pressure also jolted the consciousness of Zaha, who was nearby, into clarity. What is this? With a face full of confusion, he stared at the lackey standing opposite him. What is this, rain? I was just starting to get a buzz. His partner was suddenly dizzy. Too drunk my head, it hurts. Seeing the fun cut short, Zaha flew into a rage, desperately looking around. Where did all the wine go? The canal is just plain water now. In complete contrast to the group's fury, Ju Wan stood leisurely under the umbrella, enjoying the sight of the rain pouring down. The rain is beautiful. Let it rain more, wash everything away, and let everyone wake up. His carefree attitude, so different from the crowd, immediately caught the attention of Zaha. That guy is the culprit! Kill him! His speed was still not enough to challenge Ju 1. You tilted your body slightly to the side, causing Zaha to lunge into empty air. The remaining thugs aggressively pulled out hammers and baseball bats, surrounding you from all sides. How dare you steal our wine? We won't let you get away with this. I was just starting to feel good. Juwon didn't show a hint of fear or retreat. Instead, the corners of his lips quirked into a smile. You shoved the ramen cup you were holding into Cheha's hands. Want to fight? Fine, bring it on. But contrary to expectations, a cold system notification suddenly appeared. Due to a disparity in sovereign status, you cannot summon artifacts from other dimensions. A thug swung his baseball bat, aiming straight for Ju 1's head. Luckily, you ducked down just in time to dodge. The dangerous swing missed by a hair's breadth, whipping a few strands of your hair into the air. Witnessing the hair-raising scene, Limi Cheha screamed in panic. Captain! Cheha, standing nearby, couldn't hide his anxiety, his brows furrowed as he watched the opponent. What are you going to do without a weapon? You tried to activate the ring once more, but only a chilling silence answered you. I can't summon my artifacts anymore? This disparity in status garbage again? How annoying. Mistaking you for being weak, Zaha lunged forward again, sneering with contempt. Can't even hold a weapon of your own? Juwon delivered a critical strike straight to his vulnerable gut. The unexpected blow forced Zaha to double over in pain. You casually snatched the baseball bat from him, lazily tapping the crude weapon against your palm and flashing a wicked smile. Well, I guess I'll just have to borrow one from around here. The baseball bat in your hand swept out. With an arcing motion, he slammed his elbow straight into the face of a bald thug charging at him. Using the momentum to pivot, Du Wen shifted the weapon's angle and brought it down hard, crushing the top of another guy's head. Watching that ruthless, one-sided slaughter, Cheha muttered with a mix of weariness and awe, that lunatic wielding heavy hammers and daggers. Just as they slipped from the thug's hands and before they could hit the ground, a rope emitting a brilliant golden glow darted toward them. Master, I'll pick up whatever you drop. Falling? I'll catch them. Seeing that familiar treasure suddenly appear, he couldn't help but be stunned. Heavenly rope. When did you get here? I haven't even had a chance to look for you yet. Understanding why the system didn't block this relic, a figure in a suit rushed over and stopped. What's all the noise about? The sword at Red Army's waist was drawn from its sheath, the blade flashing with a terrifying cold light. I've never seen your face before. Du Wen, still one-handed, kept a tight grip on the man's throat, tilting his head casually to glance at the person interrupting his fun. The tip of the sword pointed straight at his face like an interrogation. Are you the one who deleted the effect of that relic? This is the territory of relic users. But before that arrogant attitude could last even 3 seconds, a fist accompanied by a gale of wind bore down on his face. From point-blank range, he planted a massive punch right into Red Army's face, shouting excitedly, "That one is mine! Hand him over to me!" His nose erupted in a spray of blood, dragging a front tooth out with it. The heavenly rope zipped over with incredible speed, precisely coiling around the sword hilt. Master, I've got it! I've caught it! Got it! Seeing their leader taken down so easily in the blink of an eye, Junchi fell into a complete panic. Big brother! Even though he was terrified, he clenched his fists, trying to intimidate the enemy. You little brat, do you have any idea how high tier that item is? You can't even use it anyway, so just hand it over nicely. The moment the hilt settled into Du Wen's palm, the previously dormant sword shuddered and awakened. He swung the sword with a decisive motion. The intense shockwave from the slash was so powerful it tore through space itself. The ground beneath everyone's feet shook violently as if hit by a massive earthquake. The wild sword chi radiating outward was strong enough to repel all the falling raindrops, causing them to evaporate completely before they could even touch his clothes. Behind the gang, a sturdy high-rise building was sliced clean in half by that invisible sharp sword aura. The top half of the building slowly slid down and collapsed into the dark, gloomy night. Du Wen's eyes suddenly flared with a dangerous, deadly light. You guys are the ones who don't realize what I've just taken! Junchi trembled, his sweaty hand reaching up to adjust his glasses, which were nearly falling off. Du Wen's arrogant, confident face was reflected clearly on the mirror-like surface of the glowing red blade. Man, this brings back memories. He stroked the length of the blade, smiling to welcome an old friend. Long time no see, Muramasa. The system interface flickered, displaying the information. Muramasa's sword, A rank. Seeing the sturdy building sliced in half, the legs of the thugs and Red Army's subordinates turned to jelly. He's slicing a whole building with sword chi. Isn't that supposed to be an A-rank relic? Du Wen stood in the rain, looking down on the panicked crowd with disdain, as if watching a bunch of children dancing. Making such a fuss over just an A-rank relic? This sword is a bit hot-headed, too. Really, old memories just keep flooding back. In a fierce battle long ago, he had used too much force and broken it, but he had swung it quite a few times back then. Du Wen's figure suddenly moved, disappearing so fast he left behind a faint afterimage that blended into the rain. Anyway, what will the ending be? Each sharp sword stroke wove together into a web of red light, ruthlessly snatching the lives of those standing in his way. "You guys are finished!" Fresh blood sprayed into the air, mixing with the heavy raindrops. Screams of agony echoed throughout the street. "Save me!" His hands continued to frantically swing the sword, sowing terror into each one of them. Cheha stood in the distance, holding a black umbrella, quietly observing the blood-soaked scene. His madness index is 99. There's definitely a reason for it, that madman. Lichmi Cheha was sitting on his shoulder, sneakily leaning in close to whisper, "Let me hear it too." Soon enough, Red Army's aggressive subordinates were taken down one by one, falling flat onto the cold ground. When only corpses and moaning wounded were left, Du Wen walked over leisurely, pointing the blood-stained sword at the face of the only one left. "Well, how about it? It's not that hard, is it? Just give up already." He looked down at the opponent, baring his teeth in a twisted smile like a demon from hell. "But leave all your relics behind before you go. Hand them all over to me, no matter what kind they are. If I search you and find you're still hiding something, your head is going to roll." Extreme fear made their words choke in their throats. They could only stammer as they stripped their gear off. The heavenly rope excitedly gathered all the relics of the defeated into one large pile. "Master, look! I've collected this much. I've gathered them all up." Glancing at the newly harvested loot, he nodded with smug satisfaction. "We got quite a lot, actually. This should be enough for seed money." Cheha glanced at the mess on the ground with a look of disapproval. "Nothing here looks like it has any real value. Honestly, it's all just things like a cracked musical instrument." Seeing he didn't know how to judge quality, Du Wen immediately bent down to pick up Pan's flute, A rank. "Hey, this isn't just an ordinary instrument, you know, it's Pan's flute. If you play it, it'll drive both beasts and humans insane." Ignoring his complaining, Cheha maintained his indifferent expression. "Aren't the people here already insane enough? And what about this?" Du Wen narrowed his eyes in that direction. "That's a feather from Yukaze. You can use it as a traversal relic." Hearing that name, he became even more skeptical and distrustful than before. "Is that really safe? In the myth, didn't Icarus end up falling?" Cheha sighed in frustration. "It's all just a pile of junk. Don't lose faith in others because of these useless things. Just give them back." Contrary to his teammates' picky attitude, he picked up a crude necklace to inspect it, and slowly lectured him. "Those who are only greedy for high-end items won't live long. You also need to know how to value garbage like this." Just as he was about to grumble more, Cheha's gaze suddenly froze as he accidentally swept over a strange object emitting a sparkling golden light in Du Wen's hand. "Wait, that thing is—" He flipped the compact object over and over, a look of confusion appearing on his face. "What is this?" Focusing all his attention, I watched his face turn deathly pale the moment he realized he wasn't seeing things. I've seen other sovereigns from different worlds before. They use it to place bets, colossal, world-altering stakes. They've gambled the very fate of their worlds on that thing, Jaha emphasized, his tone grave as he highlighted the danger. "And that coin has brought both glorious victory and total ruin. It's lethal. You'd be better off throwing it away." But his Ju-Won's reaction was completely unexpected. The corners of his mouth curled into a dark, wicked grin. A chill shot down Jaha's spine. That look. What was with that expression? It didn't hide the fanatical obsession boiling in his blood. He defiantly raised the coin of life and death into the air and laughed out loud. "So, this is definitely the most valuable thing around here, isn't it?" He couldn't have imagined that the madness of the person standing before him had no limit. Are you even listening to me? Aha! He placed the coin on his thumb, his finger curling slightly as he prepared to flick it into the air. Let's use it now. Heads or tails? Watching his reckless actions, ignoring all consequences, Lalimi Jeha panicked. Captain, have you actually lost your mind? Seeing the situation spiraling rapidly out of control, Jeha desperately tried to stop this insanity. Don't do it! What if something happens? Ignoring his teammates' frantic pleas, Ju-won remained stubborn. I choose heads. He watched the coin spin, then fall freely through the pouring rain. Jeha fell into total despair. You absolute lunatic! Ju-won nimbly clapped his hands together, catching the coin neatly. When he opened his palm to check the result, it was the exact opposite of what he'd predicted. Huh? Tails again? Instead of feeling fear or anxiety over the terrible consequences about to rain down upon them, Ju-won was filled with anticipation. I guessed wrong. So, will something unlucky happen now? Watching his devil-may-care attitude, Jeha tried to salvage the situation. Please, just stop with the reckless behavior! Suddenly, a deafening explosion from another part of the city slammed into their eardrums. A column of thick black smoke billowed into the sky. Damn it, what was that? It looked like an explosion had just occurred nearby. The system interface before Ju-won's eyes suddenly flared, displaying an urgent mission notification. The dino's relic has been destroyed. He looked blank, not understanding. Huh? When did I start the conquest? Jeha's anger had reached its breaking point. He was so furious he felt like steam was pouring out of his ears. Because you caused damage to this city, they have every right to declare this a war of conquest, don't they? Ju-won felt a pang of guilt and hurriedly looked away to avoid Jeha's burning gaze. Jeez, you're overreacting. Really? Jeha didn't let up. He pointed at the crowds of people fleeing in a panic through the smoke and dust to continue scolding him. Look at those poor people! This is your fault! Reflect on yourself for once. Ju-won narrowed his eyes, peering intently at the crowd rushing toward them. Are you sure they're the poor ones? That sharp, rhetorical question made Jeha freeze. What? The surging crowd was bristling with all sorts of lethal weapons in their hands. They were running toward the two of them with hatred in their eyes, protecting their trophy while trying to drive the invaders out. Seeing the massive reinforcements, his eyes sparkled in the dark night. Fine, bring it on. Hand over every relic you've got. Infected by its master's fervent bloodlust, the heaven's rope at his side writhed violently. I'm ready. Only Jeha was completely broken by this scene. How long are you people planning to keep fighting here? The entire scene of the conflict was captured in perfect detail by satellite lenses from above. At the capital's security command center, the officers were glued to the large surveillance screen. Their fingers flew across the keyboards in a panic. Heavy damage reported in the southern sector. The conquest gauge is dropping. Could this be the work of another sovereign? They pulled up the video of the suspect. Identity still unknown. It looks like all the civilians have been taken out. Facing the deteriorating situation, Dino gave urgent orders. Right, I understand. Deploy the entire force. Upon receiving orders from above, all the officers shouted in unison, Yes, sir! In just a few short minutes, an elite armed force equipped to the teeth arrived at the scene. Their eyes were met with the sight of several figures tied up, hanging upside down from a rope in midair. Found him. There are civilians there, too. The squad captain stepped forward, pointing his iron baton directly at Ju-won as a warning. Stand down! You're surrounded, hanging civilians on a rope. What exactly are you planning? Ju-won gave the man the look of utter contempt before flashing a sarcastic smile. Can't you see? I'm drying them out. Everyone here was soaked in alcohol, so I'm just doing them a favor by washing and drying them off. In a corner of the yard, Jeha was still faithfully letting the freezing water pour down, soaking the people lying motionless on the ground. Ju-won intentionally provoked them to drive the armed force mad. I'm doing a great job, right? Don't you feel like you want to reward me for this? If you're going to give me something, make it a relic. The captain was so angry that the veins in his eyes turned a deep blood red. You bastard! The rage spread to all the other soldiers. Get him! He casually pulled out the spoils of war he'd just confiscated to test its power. I knew it! You insolent little brats, get a taste of Pandy's flute! As soon as the eerie melody began to play, the entire unit froze mid-stride, as if someone had hit a pause button. The demonic tune slithered into their eardrums, making their minds spin instantly. The pupils of every single soldier began to turn a deep blood red. Their consciousness was completely swallowed by darkness, and they could no longer maintain their sanity. They turned their weapons against their own comrades, lunging at each other ruthlessly. "Who are you? Get out of here! You're the traitor!" Watching the chaotic aftermath he'd orchestrated, Ju-Won was extremely satisfied. They're fighting so spiritedly. "Go ahead, have fun playing with each other!" The heavens rope wrapped around his arm writhed and lashed out repeatedly. Idiots. He leisurely turned around and started to walk. "Don't forget to look back and wave goodbye while you're at it. I'm off." Suddenly, a sharp whistling sound lunged out from a blind spot behind him. The silver glint of a blade grazed him by a hair's breadth, leaving just a streak of icy wind against his cheek. Amidst the chaotic rubble and the shrieks of the insane, a slender, dark figure suddenly emerged from behind the soldiers' ranks. Dronzer coolly leveled her remaining dagger, eyes fixed on the sharp blade pointed at Ju-Won. Too bad. Ignoring the fresh blood trickling from the scratch on his cheek, he remained calm while observing his newly arrived opponent. Someone can still maintain their sanity? With his keen perception, his gaze quickly locked onto the glowing symbol on her wrist. A sanity index of 100, huh? This discovery didn't make Ju-Won flinch. On the contrary, it made the fire of excitement in his blood burn even brighter. It seems a talented agent has finally appeared. At this moment, Che-Ha also stepped closer. It was truly a miracle that Pan's flute worked so well, and luckily, there was only one opponent. But she might be hard to deal with using only the relics he had now. Facing the killing intent closing in, Ju-Won didn't even hold back his praise. To maintain such a perfect sanity level in a city as maddening as this. "Oh, you're quite the tough nut, aren't you?" The expression behind Dronzer's black mask remained frozen, without a flicker of reaction to his provocation. "Be silent. I am placing you under arrest for disturbing the peace." A faint sound rang out as his two fingers pinched a death coin out of nowhere. "Don't be so boring. Let's settle this with this thing instead." The wall of calm around Dronzer finally showed a crack, her expression shifting abruptly. "Is that the death coin usually wielded by the majesties? How did you get your hands on that?" However, that fear didn't last long before she quickly steadied herself. "No, that's definitely just a poor quality replica. Lately, those cheap knockoffs of that relic have been spreading all over the city, causing so much chaos. I thought we had recovered them all, but it seems a few slipped through the cracks." Not wanting to give her opponent time for tricks, Dronzer immediately accelerated, closing in on Ju-Won. "I won't be fooled by such shallow tricks." And before her blade could even touch the hem of his coat, he was one step faster, flicking the coin into the air. "Hold on." The death coin spun continuously, leaving a sparkling trail in the dark night that left Dronzer completely stunned. Che-Ha held his breath, his body tense, waiting for the result of this risky gamble. Only the heavenly rope was still cheering for its master. Ju-Won reached out with both hands, accurately catching the falling coin and clutching it tight. "I told you we'd settle it with this." He slowly looked up, sporting a challenging grin. "Now take your pick, heads or tails." While Ju-Won eagerly awaited an answer, Dronzer stood frozen in bewilderment for a long while before finally responding. "Tails." Unexpectedly, that very answer caused the sword in her hand to burst in a bizarre way. As Ju-Won excitedly mocked his opponent, "Looks like I win," Dronzer still couldn't digest this bitter reality. "But that's impossible. Is this a hero-grade relic?" Suddenly, her gauntlet let out a noisy signal, making Ju-Won realize an interesting fact about his opponent. Her sanity index was dropping. Realizing this, Dronzer saw his move and panicked, screaming, "Stop! That's the real death coin!" She suddenly froze, observing the terrifying aura radiating from Ju-Won. "Wait a minute, if that thing is the real deal, doesn't that mean this guy has reached the level of the majesties?" For some reason, he reverted to his usual demeanor to chat. "I think I'll keep using this for our match. I have a very good feeling about it, and this is better for you too, right? Since you're all alone and there's two of us." Ju-Won's joyful expression was exactly what Che-Ha from another space-time feared the most. He didn't have any relics. "Wait, actually, only one of us can fight," he said, lying through his teeth without even blinking. He silently observed Dronzer's attitude before looking dumbfounded by what he just saw, but it worked. She irritably reached out and grabbed the evil golden coin. "Fine, but this time I'll be the one to flip it." As soon as the fragile coin was tossed high, Dronzer hurried to catch it and called out, "Tails, The result was quickly revealed, just as she had predicted. This caused the rope to scream in agony, as it had to take the punishment for its master. It was coming loose. That noise forced Ju-won to grab the coin again to continue his lazy battle. Next round, right now. Just like that, the sound of the coin being flipped rang out continuously, with the turns alternating between Ju-won and Dronzer, each harboring their own secret hopes. However, at the coin's request, whenever one of them guessed wrong, someone had to pay the price. Either Dronzer or the heavenly rope, the comrade who had to endure blast after blast for Ju-won. The vast space echoed with constant boom sounds. A long while later, before the coin turned an unusual black, Ju-won looked at the person kneeling in pain before him and laughed leisurely. The results are in. You lost. When Dronzer irritably urged him to stop talking nonsense and flip the coin, Ju-won couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. Can you still talk like that after looking at your right wrist? The opponent's well-meaning reminder forced her to clearly see the number 9 appearing on her gauntlet. While Dronzer was still bewildered by this cruel reality, since when did it become like this? Ju-won happily showed compassion by explaining it to her. Your sanity index drops after every round, but the amount we lose is different. My goal from the very beginning was to drain your sanity. This statement made Dronzer's mood sink even further. You cunning bastard. The opponent's dissatisfied reaction only made Ju-won happily ramble on. One more roll and you're going to turn into an NPC. He braced himself, readying for the next die roll before speaking sincerely to June. With a provocative tone, goodbye. For some reason, he suddenly reconsidered his earlier plan. Wait. Hand over all your relics and lead me to His Majesty. Follow a route that avoids their patrol squads. Time passed, and hidden beneath the city's chaotic, festive atmosphere, June grumbled as he led the way. The outsiders followed through the dark alleys. She suddenly stopped and said tensely, Fine. All right, we're here. From here on out, you're on your own. Unexpectedly, Ju-won didn't follow her lead, instead asking with frustration, What kind of nonsense are you spouting? What is it? As June awkwardly expressed his thoughts, how can there be a path that completely avoids the surveillance network? From here on, every single area is a special surveillance zone. If I'm caught with you, I'll be labeled a traitor. Ju-won kicked the person away without a second thought. Like I care! Huh? As June panicked and turned around, Ju-won calmly brought up something strange he'd been wondering about since he first arrived. What is this? He asked. This is supposed to be a special surveillance zone, but how come I don't see any of your accomplices? That statement left the other dimensional Cheha confused, too. Are you trying to trick us? Me? Trying to trick you? As June looked around at the vast space in confusion, something felt very off. Before the three of them could sniff out the trouble lurking in this place, the floor beneath them began to rumble violently. Ju-won's body quickly triggered a warning as he felt a strange aura rushing down the pillar right behind him. Meanwhile, everyone was bewildered by the scene unfolding for the first time. What is going on? Someone screamed in panic, their alcohol-induced haze dissipating instantly. The ground, every brick on the floor, shifted rapidly according to the machinery's layout. In one fleeting moment, everyone present fell into a huge hole that had appeared in the middle of the space. Ju-won naturally couldn't have anticipated this outcome, so he was too stunned to finish his sentence. At that same moment, the director watched the scene on a security camera in the control room, and the security force couldn't help but laugh gleefully. Success! All targets have fallen in. Good job. We should have done this from the start. Close the entrance. The situation had been resolved. Once trapped in the labyrinth, they would never be able to survive and get out. It was unclear how long they had been in freefall, but as they landed in the space below, a moldy smell hit Ju-won's nose, forcing him to push himself up immediately. Before Ju-won could regain his composure, Cheha asked anxiously, Are you okay? Captain? Unexpectedly, he hadn't even had time to answer before June and the others began to scream noisily, This is absurd! Let me out! What did I even do wrong? The moment Ju-won sighed and muttered, Looks like everyone is okay, he was cut off by the conversation of two people nearby. Hey, is this place hell? Probably. It's the place I've only heard about in rumors, the labyrinth. They say if you fall in here, you'll never get out. This is it. We're done for. Seeing everyone's spirits sinking, Ju-won hissed in annoyance, Be quiet. We need to stay calm to find a way out. Suddenly, the other dimensional Cheha lowered his voice. I hear footsteps, causing Cheha to hide in panic under his collar. That fast? Could they have heard us and tracked us down? Ju-won quickly braced himself, preparing to deal with whatever excessive behavior the incoming character might have. The hurried footsteps of a few people grew louder. Ju-won scanned the crowd around him, then sighed slowly and muttered, "Oh great, even more people have been dumped down here. Why is the security force throwing more people down here?" As soon as Ju-won asked his usual question, he didn't hesitate to speak, sharing directly, "We are the ones who have been trapped here for a while. We were imprisoned for refusing to serve His Majesty." The vague statement was detailed by Hunche just a few seconds later. "If people with a sanity score over 70 try to gather, the security force throws everyone down here without exception. They classify us as dangerous individuals. I guess he didn't just turn this city into a mess with just the power of alcohol. He's also locking all the normal people underground." Ju-won took all those words to heart, then cleared his throat and said confidently, "In that case, everyone follow me. I'll get you out of here." Unfortunately, Ju-won not only didn't believe it, but expressed his thoughts almost immediately. "That's impossible. See that iron gate over there? That's the only way out. But to pass through that gate, you have to drink the alcohol placed on the wall. However, that glass of wine is no different from poison. The moment you drink it, you will completely lose your free will, just like those people up there. So, it's either starve to death here or become an NPC and leave. You can only choose one." Ju-won awkwardly mumbled an apology, directed at the people who had arrived here first. "I'm sorry, but that's all we can tell you." Contrary to everyone's expectations, he just sighed slowly to rekindle his fighting spirit. "No need to apologize. Regardless, the fact that I'm leaving this place isn't changing. The door won't open? I just need to smash it to pieces, right?" Ju-won cheerfully grabbed his blade and charged straight toward the tightly shut door. "It's lucky I picked up a useful relic for times like this." Unexpectedly, the system installed on both sides of the gate suddenly appeared, droning. "Target detected. Commencing measurement of sanity and madness scores. Measuring conditions met." Immediately after that sentence, the gate gently opened, leaving everyone in awe. Ju-won himself, the cause of this event, was also incredibly confused, The people around rushed toward him, taking turns speaking their minds. "This is impossible. The door just opened on its own. It says this person conditions met." "What? That's impossible. How could anyone meet those requirements unless they're completely insane?" "Their madness level is 9. 19? Who exactly are you?" Cheha and Duthuk shouted in a panic. Usually, as madness levels rise, sanity drops. But to maintain sanity while the madness is this high. Before they could finish, Ju-won let out a laugh, showing off his superiority. "I guess it's because I'm a foreigner. Anyway, the door is open, so let's get out of here." Meanwhile, the chief in the security room heard the news. He was furious, slamming the table and yelling at his subordinates. "What is going on? Why did the door open on its own?" They were panicking, warning that if the madness level is 99, the sanity level should be 0. It's normal for the door to open in response to an incredibly high madness level. That guy is just a freak. Seriously, it's bizarre that he's still fine even with a madness level of 99. The chief, blood-boiling, ordered them to save the situation. "Activate all the traps. Go and wake the second heart. Send it toward where they're heading immediately." Meanwhile, as the group ventured deeper into the dark corridor, Vine's Leo, following orders from above, silently approached them from behind. Fortunately, thanks to his sharp sixth sense, Ju-won noticed the danger almost instantly. He hurriedly drew his sword and slashed the strange vines to pieces, while the others were still shell-shocked by the sudden event. "What? Was that a trap?" Ju-won gritted his teeth in annoyance. How troublesome. Suddenly, his nasal cavity was attacked, causing his sanity to drop by a full 5 points. "What is this smell? Damn it." Chi-ha, from another timeline, frowned and reminded Ju-won, "Everyone's sanity is being drained. We can't just slash at things." "At those things!" Unexpectedly, that remark irritated him, and he struck the vines with his sword. "Get out of my way, you bastards!" At that very second, a strange sound echoed, forcing Ju-won to stop what he was doing. Someone else heard it, too, and immediately voiced their confusion. "What's that sound?" Everyone started feeling anxious as the noise grew louder. "I'm not sure either. It's certainly not a pleasant sound." At that moment, a chilling, arrogant laugh echoed throughout the place. The guards of the Satiros labyrinth had officially met the survivors. He looked down at the small group before him and leisurely mocked them. Look at you all. How arrogant wandering through this labyrinth while still maintaining your sanity. But it won't last much longer once you've crossed paths with me. Suddenly, a piercing screech made everyone rush to cover their ears. Juwon saw his sanity level unexpectedly drop by 10 points and muttered irritably, "Does it drop just by standing near it?" Satiros didn't care about their feelings and calmly ordered his troops, "Now, open the lids of those wine barrels. I must let these arrogant fools taste some wine." The vines followed Satiros's order, suddenly lashing out to fling them into the heavy wine vats. All the monsters watched with excitement as the humans wriggled in agony in the strange wine. That's right, that's it. Even John, an elite soldier, couldn't handle the mental torment. Before the survivors could fall unconscious, Ju-1 quickly shattered the wine vats and spun around to deal with the monsters. He finished the job in a flash. I really didn't want to bring this out, you know. This piqued Satiros's interest significantly. I see. So, you're the one who opened that door? Why are you hindering me when your madness level is so high? Do you want to play king with these humans? Is that your hobby? Ju-1 waited for him to finish before calmly retorting, "Watch your tone. I am already a king by nature. As for you, you're just the king of this maze, right? Shall we? This will be a battle between kings. I hear that in these parts, kings usually settle things with gambling, right? What do you say? A quick coin toss?" While waiting for Satiros's answer, Ju-1 thought excitedly, "I'll use this to buy some time." The guy was silent for a few seconds before smirking. Interesting. But I get to choose the game. I prefer a game involving wine. Now there are 6 glasses of wine here, and 1 is poisoned. There will be 3 rounds, and you must choose 2 glasses in each round. Ju-1 asked in confusion instinctively, 2 glasses? Satiros nodded, explaining to the confused onlookers, "That's right. 1 is for you to drink and the other is to offer to your opponent." Ju-1 nodded, summarizing the rules. "So, I have to bet my life once and your life once." The fact that he understood the instructions so quickly made the guy smile wickedly. Exactly. Unexpectedly, Satiros faced a wave of protests from the group. "That's not fair. That monster brought the wine. Surely he knows which one is poisoned." This made him roar in anger to shut them up. "Quiet. Do you think I'd do something so dishonorable? I am very serious when it comes to wine and games." Ju-1 looked at that childish, stubborn display and couldn't help but sigh. "All right, calm down. So I just need to pick a glass and drink first, right?" His proactive choice obviously thrilled Satiros. "That's it. You're choosing right now?" Meanwhile, Cheha, acting as the strategist from another timeline, panicked and yelled, "Hey! Are you seriously going to drink that? Wait!" Surprisingly, Ju-1 ignored everyone and downed the glass of wine in his hand. The gulping sound secretly delighted Satiros. Surprisingly, Ju-1 just tossed the glass on the table with satisfaction. Not bad at all. That triumphant look made Satiros exclaim immediately, "You really are a lucky one. I guess the first glass wasn't poisoned." What shocked everyone the most was that Ju-1 continued to guzzle the wine as if quenching an 8,000-year thirst. This made the Cheha duo scream in panic. "What the hell? Have you lost your mind?" he shouted. "You were supposed to hand 1 glass to him. The captain is drinking poison," even though the other guy had already warned Ju-1. He just laughed leisurely and said, provoking him, "Just wait and see."